Throw some colors on the screen and paint me black and white. I wanna see a thief in a gunfight or a heroine wounded in love. You can keep her lighted by an old flame left to frame, so I can read the feeling on her face, half in shadow, and know I felt that too. In danger and in love, you've got the dreams I was dreaming of, and I've got 2 hours to pretend. So I'll watch a movie with a friend. Time's running sideways, and reality's gotta meet me halfway. So I'll meet it here again. Here's the Trading Movies Podcast with friends. Okay.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dracula Podcast. Today I'm talking to Bobby, aka Lugosi Theater on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, who is the world's biggest Dracula fan. He is a TikToker that focuses on, well, Dracula, as well as his life as an autistic person. He has a short story out called Mr. Ghoul and Mrs. Ghoul as part of an anthology book called Ed Wood's Warm Angora Wishes and Rubber Octopus Dreams. Bobby, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be on.
I love it. I've been looking forward to this day for weeks now to have you on because I love your channel so much. And
thank you so much. And I love your podcast. It's amazing.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this is really exciting for me. Okay, so I guess from the top, how did you get so in love with Dracula?
Honestly, it was ever since I was little.
Really?
He was before I even saw the movie. He was always like my favorite Halloween character. So like if someone had like a Dracula Halloween decoration, that was my favorite. If there was the Dracula Halloween card at the store, that was my favorite. Count Van Count was my favorite on Sesame Street. Grandpa was my favorite on the Munsters. Count Chocula, that was my favorite cereal guy. And even like the characters I liked before I was able to watch the movie, like Captain Hook, and like you could see that the Dracula, like he's a villain dressed nicely. You could see how like it led me to it. And then when I was 7 years old in the 1990s, the place to be on a Friday night was your local video rental store.
Absolutely. Yeah. Blockbuster and all that. Yeah. For sure.
And in the video store, they had just remodeled, and they had a whole Universal Monster section. So they had like Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman, Creature from the Black Lagoon, but like all the sequels too. And like Revenge of the Creature, Son of Dracula, and just like the cover to me of Dracula looked like the grooviest.
Yeah.
It was his face with the Castle Dracula behind him. And I rented it, and I remember when he comes down the stairs and he says, "I am Dracula." I didn't know what the word authentic was because I was 7 years old, but I got so excited. I started jumping up and down. This is the real Dracula. This is the real Dracula. Yeah. Like, so ever since I saw it, I just loved it. To me, that was the real Dracula.
Yeah, I gotta say, I had not seen, I don't know when the first Dracula movie I saw was, to be honest with you. I don't know, like, because I never saw the classic Universal horror ones growing up. Like, it just, there wasn't the type of like horror. My dad was a big horror guy and he likes those old movies, but he just like, I guess they weren't a lot like on, and we didn't rent them or something, but he was like watching more. Like, also I got freaked out by horror because my older brother was into like Friday the 13th and Freddy Krueger and stuff like that. So he used to scare the hell out of me with the mask and everything. And so I just kind of had like an aversion to like horror in general a little bit. So I didn't see the original Dracula until I think probably last year, the year before. I think so. Yeah. It's like literally all the way until here. I couldn't believe how good it was and how it's like, okay, it's like I had the same exact experience. Like this is Dracula. It's like I've seen other Draculas before, but Bela Lugosi, that's there's something so unnerving. He almost like jumps off the screen. Like there's like, it's like I don't know, like he feels so three-dimensional, like he's real, like he's just like you're in the room with him was my experience with it. Yeah. So very similar.
That's exactly how I feel. I'm like this. To give you an idea, 1 year later is when I saw my first horror documentary, Monster Mania, and that's when I learned that Bela Lugosi was really from Transylvania. So it was just like it reinforced all that. This is the real Dracula.
Absolutely.
But and that's what he has. I think is so amazing about him is that he feels so real. You know, it's not just, his, he was born in Lugos, Hungary, on the western border of Transylvania. So his accent's real. The kind of vibe of his culture is real. He was a super charismatic person. So that aspect of him is real. And it just, he imbues it with like such a larger than life character, but he makes it feel so grounded.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a shocking performance to watch, frankly. Like, it was like still like shocking to this day, of like disturbing, like on a, like, I know it's like, I definitely love it and like watched it multiple times since then, obviously, but it's just like, I just remember just being like, almost just like a chill, like literally a spine chilling, it's just like, whoa, this is like the way he looks like in the close-ups at the camera and the way he holds it. It's almost like, it's like the mask they have in like Greek theater, like the smiley face. It's like his face kind of contorts like that or something.
Oh my God, the close-ups all the time, they're so eerie. And each one's a little bit different, And I gotta say that's like part of the experience of watching him is on some, because his portrayal of Dracula, that became the pop culture Dracula. That's Dracula's you see in the Halloween store and in Halloween decorations. So on some level, it's everything you expect from the character, but you don't expect it to be that good and that real.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's so like always it's why his performance is so timeless. It's everything you know about that character, but where it feels like this is the real thing.
Yeah. And I think, honestly, some of it is like I feel like some of it is he's not very made up, right? He's just kind of, probably stage makeup and white makeup and his hair slicked back and he's got the collar and stuff, but he's just like, the way he's like contorting is just like, he's like 90% human, but then 10% off or something, or 5%, as opposed to like, feel like there's been like, certainly with CGI as a trend, like, but there's been like a trend to have like more like, even like the latest Nosferatu or something, it's like the sort of Dracula stand-in or the vampire stand-in is like the sort of more abstract, grotesque creature or whatever else. But I think Lugosi, he's like so close to being human, right? It seems like part of it for me.
Yeah, and everything that really, I mean, yes, there's really great lighting, and yes, you have the fake bat on the wire, but most of it is like all him.
Yeah.
What makes him seem supernatural is that kind of weird way he moves.
Yeah.
And that the way he enunciates what he says.
Yeah.
It's like 90% of what makes him creepy is just him.
Yeah.
And I think that, and even Bela Lugosi doesn't wear fangs, but you forget it.
Yeah.
Because you forget it because it adds to it because it's like there's nothing fake about him. It just feels real.
Yeah.
And in the way he's filmed, Dracula is a very like there's some really well done like tracking shots and stuff, but it's a very like simply shot movie.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pizzazzy things going on, and just like that, when you first see him, when he's like walking and as he's going down the stairs, it's just very simple. And that makes it feel more real. This is just Dracula in his castle.
Yeah. That's a thing. That's absolutely a thing. I had a complaint about, it's a complaint I have in general in a lot of modern movies is that they just cut too much. I just like to sort of like, they cut too much and they don't cut sort of meaningfully. You could point to, I think, this Dracula, the 31 Dracula, as one of the best examples, I think, of editing, just because like they'll play something flat, and then when the cut happens to Lugosi's face, it's like, it's shocking. It's like shocking every time they cut to his face, as opposed to like in modern movies a lot, you just have like just constant close-ups, but a close-up I think was supposed to be an impactful thing, or should be in many ways. And yeah, this movie does it so well, right?
Does. Oh my God. And like every close-up of him, it's like you could hang that on your wall.
Yeah.
Well, right?
Scared, but yeah.
Right, yeah, you'd be scared, but you could. but it's like they always met in Carl Freund, the cinematographer. who was one of the innovators of the tracking shot, he does such a great job of like getting that lighting just perfect, you
Yeah.
know, where it feels it's eerie, but it never feels like too much. It's like that perfect amount.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a clear love for Dracula on the part of everyone making it too. Like it's not like there's like a it's like a fear for sure of like because they're like they do such a good job of inducing the fear, but it's also like you can tell. I think that everyone just loved Bela Lugosi making it, and they knew exactly what made him like strong in that presence, you know, like, which I was actually curious to ask you about. So Todd Browning directed this one, right? His
Yes.
next movie, one of my all-time favorite movies, was Freaks, and you know that was I think also put up as like a horror movie, but in reality he kind of snuck in. I think like, have you seen Freaks, the 1932?
Oh
Todd
yeah,
Browning.
definitely.
Yeah,
It's so good.
yeah, I think that's like one of the most that made me I was sobbing by the end of it, just in terms of like, you know, how it's such an empathetic portrayal of disabled people, I think. Like, even though I know they presented it as a horror, and I believe like they lost like 30 minutes of it, but I feel like you can kind of see, think I see a through line between like Dracula and Freaks is like sort of like a very strong connection to sort of outsiders and like a very like a love of it some kind, even though Dracula obviously is, you know, a figure of great evil. He's not like, they still attempt to like almost understand and love him in a way, if that makes sense. Do you feel that way?
I do too.
Yeah.
I do, because you get this is a creature who's just doing his thing.
Yeah.
I have a friend. You remember the scene on the ship
Mm.
when they're cutting back and forth between the sailors and Dracula, and you know that Dracula is going to drink their blood,
Yeah.
and Bela is just kind of going, and it's very, and my friend really caught on to this, Chris Gauthier, and after he said it, I could see it. You get the impression that this is like kind of a cursed creature. There's even an interview where Bela Lugosi refers to Dracula as being under a curse.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Did he talk about that at all? So Bobby and I were talking a little bit before the show about this is so happy Bela Lugosi Death Day, you know, to Bela Lugosi. We didn't plan this, but it was just the first day we had open. So when you're listening to this, people, you won't be listening on the day, but you'll be listening. We are recording this on Bela Lugosi's Death Day. And so I was curious, one of the things that Bobby had brought up that I meant to ask you about, is probably a good time to get into it, is you said that Bela Lugosi was the first person to go into drug rehab, I believe, or was it for alcohol?
First celebrity to publicly go into drug rehab.
Yeah.
It was actually for morphine, for morphine addiction. He suffered from sciatica from an old World War I injury.
Oh, yeah, that's a tough one.
It was, yeah, and at first he tried to treat it with like the old home remedy of asparagus juice, but then and that didn't work out. So the doctor prescribed him morphine, and like over time he became, unfortunately addicted to it, and especially after his fourth wife Lillian left him, he kind of went bananas, and then at age 73, he was the first celebrity to ever publicly go into drug rehab. He completed a 90-day inpatient program and was given the Kingsman Life Is What You Make It award.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So he was 73 by the time he had to it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think that's so admirable and courageous, because I feel a lot of people, especially back then, 73 was really, really old. People didn't really live as long back then. So that I feel a lot of people would have like given up, but not be able to go see.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I was wondering about that, because I didn't know, I didn't know he had got into it. So I was curious, like maybe when you had said that, like, and just when we were talking about sort of the him being a cursed creature, like him almost having the compulsion to do it. I wonder if he felt that way about any other sort of substance, or if he had people, I'm sure, like, alcoholism was so prevalent like back then, and certainly still is today, but drug abuse and all this stuff. So that was kind of the thing that called out to me a little bit on this last watch was was some of that sort of that pull he had of like that he feels towards the blood or feels towards doing. I was like, this could almost be an early metaphor for like some type of like addiction of some kind on some level, you know?
Honestly, because he was addicted to alcohol too. But the impression I get is that was like both of those things were later after Dracula.
Yeah.
And at the time he made Dracula, he was actually considered like kind of a health nut.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder, do you know if his parents were at all? I wonder if he like sort of grew up around. I'd be curious about like the maybe it's I do too much sort of reading into it, but I also think of like The Wolfman, right? Great movie with Lon Chaney. That movie crushed me because of knowing Lon Chaney's history, Lon Chaney Jr. and his like the movie is about dealing with like for the audience if you haven't seen it, wonderful movie, one of my favorite of the Universals. But the movie is about is like a guy dealing with a difficult relationship with his father. Lon Chaney Jr. famously had a extremely difficult relationship with his father, and so his acting on screen is just like heartbreaking.
Right, it really is. Even like this scene when Claude, and I know this is the 40s, so it was like a little bit different. But when Claude Rains is like, between us, let's have no such reserve.
Yeah.
A handshake. I'm not gonna hug you. No, we're gonna handshake.
Yeah. Gosh, Claude Rains so good. Was just watching Casablanca the other week.
Oh my, he's so great in that.
He's one of my favorite of the old timey actors. Lugosi too, honestly. Lugosi and Karloff.
Oh my God! I was gonna say, don't forget Bela's the fortune teller.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen. Is that the movie The Fortune Teller?
And the Wolfman.
In The Wolfman. Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
oh, I forgot about that. Yes, he is. Yeah.
And what I love is like I always forget like how small his part is because like he like in like just a few minutes he convinces you like that he's under this curse.
Yeah. That's so good. I totally forgot. I need to watch that again. That's another one I watched probably a few months ago. And yeah, it was tremendous. Boris Karloff too. I think the thing about Lugosi and Karloff, like they made a lot of movies where, they definitely capitalized on their fame and fortune. And like, I think they made a lot of movies like that, let's say, to be generous, like aren't as good as like Frankenstein and Dracula, which are like some of the greatest movies ever.
Right,
but they aren't a lot of movies that are really, really good and their performances are really, really good. I watched The Lost Patrol, which is a John Ford movie that has Boris Karloff playing like kind of a religious preacher. And he's like a side character in like 1933. He's like an army guy who's like, the plot of the movie is like, it's like a lost patrol of army guys in the desert in the Middle East, and they're all going crazy. And Karloff plays like this sort of religious fanatic that is like just going crazy. And he's so good in it. It's like, it's one of his best performances. But I think both him and Lugosi especially, like, they could really act, right? Like,
oh yeah,
tremendous.
Have you ever seen the Black Cat with Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff? It's the first movie they ever did together.
Yeah,
and Bela, he plays a World War I veteran, and like you could tell like he's summoning those memories up. There's like this like real, it's his intensity and confidence, but you could feel like the real pain inside.
Absolutely, and that was the like Lugosi. From what I want to say, I watched like one of those A&E biographies on him maybe a year ago or so. That I think they included on. I got that nice, lovely set of all the Universal horror monsters. He was like a big actor in Hungary, right? Like he was already well. Wasn't he? Was he like he was like a pretty. He was like an actor in Hungary, and then he did a lot of stage stuff, like before doing movies. Correct?
Oh yes. So the way he began, he started. He always wanted to be an actor ever since he was a little boy, and he would put on plays in the empty warehouses in town. But his father was very strict and wanted him to focus on his studies. Mm. So Bela, he was prone to exaggeration. So he always said he was 12 years old, but he was really more like 14, and he ran away from home. He worked in a coal mine for a while, and then his big sister Vilma, her husband got him a job in the chorus, and he rose through the ranks. He did. He got wonderful reviews playing Romeo and Juliet. He played Jesus Christ in the Passion play.
Oh, cool.
He was at the National Theater of Budapest, and they had a ranking system. where they would put on different productions of the same play and then like compare and contrast the actors. And at one point, he was ranked number one.
Mm.
And then while he was there, actors were exempt from military service, but he enlisted anyway in World War One, and he was actually in the ski patrol, which is where you're fighting on skis in the snowy, freezing Carpathian Mountains.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, and then he was injured twice, and then after he came back, there was a revolution in Hungary. And at that time, actors had to pay for their own costumes. So you could be like a struggling actor, and most of your paycheck had to go to your, to tuxedos or nice dresses or whatever you had to do to play. And he worked with the new government to help create a stage and screen actors union.
That's so
unfortunately cool. 6 months later, a new party took over, and he was put on the enemies list to be arrested, probably killed. So him and his wife Alona had to flee in the middle of the night to Vienna. And there he actually worked with F.W. Murnau, the future director of
Rocky, right?
Yeah, Bela played the butler in a silent version of Jekyll and Hyde.
That's cool.
And then Bela, who always got seasick, convinced the sea captain that he had all kinds of sailing experience. And he got a job on a cargo ship that was coming to America. And he landed in New Orleans.
That's very cool. That's so cool. And then he went to he took up acting like in America.
Yeah. So at first he directed plays in the Hungarian theater community, and his early parts he actually had to learn phonetically, where you don't really understand the language and you're just kind of doing it by sound. And then he started appearing on Broadway, and meanwhile, the play adaptation of Dracula was a big hit in England, and they were going to revise it for Broadway. And it was the Hamilton Dean wrote it for the English production, and then John L. Balderson, who had been the first journalist allowed to see King Tut's tomb, rewrote it for Broadway. And Horace Liverite, who was like this kind of like Great Gatsby type character, he was the producer. And he heard that he was recommended Bela Lugosi. Someone told him that he was great at playing villains, and that he was really from Transylvania, and very importantly, you didn't have to pay him that much. So he was for cheap.
Yeah,
he would work for and because they had already cast all the parts. And
cool. Go ahead.
Yeah, and then I'm sorry. And then the first few weeks of rehearsal, everyone was already kind of in character, but Bela was just kind of saying his lines. And Horace, they had in about a week, they were going to have the financial backers were going to come in, and they were going to put on 3 test scenes. And Horace Liverite called Bela to his office to kind of tell him, like, we got to step it up here. And Bela told him, Mr. Liverite, I understand you're concerned. But first we work from position. Our lines must be perfect. Yes, we saved the performance for a week until tomorrow evening. And that was the first time that Horace Liverite had seen him do the character. And then the night of the test scenes, all the actors were mingling with the backers, except for Bela Lugosi. He was sitting alone in his dressing room, staring into the mirror, repeating over and over, I am Dracula. I am Dracula. I am Dracula. And then he got on stage and he did the scene where Dracula hypnotizes the maid. From now on, you carry out any suggestion that reaches you from my brain. Instantly and without question, when I will you to do a thing, it shall be done. My call will reach you soon. And then they didn't have to put on the other 2 scenes. That's when they knew that we got the right guy.
Just one did it. That's so cool.
Yeah,
I would have freaked out if that's the first time seeing that live. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't know anything about the character Dracula yet. That's completely new to you.
Yeah. That's crazy. So he did that on stage. So when I was looking on the Wikipedia, it said he He claimed he performed the Dracula play around 1,000 times in his lifetime, like the stage version.
Now,
Or is that part of
now
his exaggeration, or?
it could have it could have been, but he honestly did do the play a lot.
Mm.
So I mean, then he may have rounded up the number a little bit, but he did do the play a lot because, he did he did it on Broadway, he did the tour, and then later on, he was like kind of constantly doing like tours and play productions of Dracula throughout the rest of his life.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. That's really cool. It's interesting you say when you said he learns the sort of the lines phonetically at first. I'm assuming because he was a Hungarian speaker, not an English speaker, right? I kind of wonder, that seems like it, certainly like his demeanor as an actor, and he knew how to make things terrifying, but among the many lines that like just started getting quoted by me and my buddy after we watched it was just, we would, constantly, if I'm drinking like coffee, right? We would just go around the house about, never drink coffee, just like anything like that, So I kind of wonder like how much that was like, like that sort of learning it phonetically, like it's almost like he pays attention a bit, I don't know what the word is, like maybe to the rhythm or the cadence of the sounds in the words more so than just like the actual like way you would say it, just speaking English in a way that makes it more disturbing, I think, right?
Yeah, I feel like, because like there's evidence, like when he was on Broadway, of him having like conversations with like different actors in English. So, but the impression I got, he was never like, it was his fourth language, Hungarian, French, German, then English. So it was never like the one he was like the most comfortable in. But like by having to do those early parts phonetically, I mean, you think of the concentration that took.
Yeah.
The folks be able to learn your lines and not know what they say. So I feel like he really, like you were saying, he really kind of knew the rhythm of speech and how you could say like a certain word and emphasize certain letters and really make it bright. Even the way he said evening. Like, I'm going to put that emphasis here. I'm going to put this emphasis here. Like he really knew the power that you could say. And also as Dracula, he's undead.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a living being.
Yeah.
So like having that, like that kind of those strange pauses, it gives you it in a very like subtle way, it gives you the impression that this is not a live person.
He's also from another time too. He's like hundreds of years old, right? And I kind of wonder, like, it's almost like in a weird way, one of the things I obviously on my channel I talk about old movies a lot, and it almost like it almost makes it like more, his character more connectable, because sometimes I feel like that a little bit when I'm talking about like, if I'll watch like the last 10 movies I've watched is like before 1950, it's like, well, it's like almost out of a different time, like just like the media I'm consuming or whatever, in a way that I guess like Dracula almost feels like more just his being of like being like, imagine how weird that must be. I know he like, in like the canon of it, he rises up and he has to drink blood, so he has to like keep with the modern times somewhat, but he's very much of a different time and place in a way that, the character wise, right? He's from hundreds of years ago as opposed to 1931 or whenever when the movie takes place.
Yeah, and I mean, you can even see like his castle. It's a disaster. You could, it's brutal.
Which he likes. When I watched the Spanish Dracula last night, I couldn't remember in the English Dracula, because I know there seemed like there were a few differences in which we can get into, but I was curious about when he, like, one thing I noticed in the Spanish Dracula is that he says, like, when he's taking over the Abbey, they're like, oh, someone could make a really good home out of that, but he says like, yeah, but I kind of like a decrepit, so I'm not gonna do anything to it.
Yeah.
So does he do that in the English language one too? Does he have that same line about not fixing it up?
The line is slightly different, but it's like the same thing. It's like, I shall do very little repairing. The broken battlements remind me of my own castle in Transylvania.
Yeah, that's great. So he's like, he's just like, I feel like that's almost like it's like an anti-home renovation thing, right? Like all the
right.
See that a lot, like in my, like in houses, like when I used to live in New York City, you would see that of like people would buy these beautiful old brownstones with like these parquet floors and like all kinds of things that are beautiful, and then they just like put everything gray on the middle and like in the inside. I'm like, but that's such like, it's like an old castle. Like you would get to live in like an old, like why would you not want to live in an old castle? Don't rent
Right?
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he keeps it. I mean, like, because that's like when he was alive, that was his home.
That was
Like
his style.
that's like that. Yeah, he doesn't really want it repaired with like modern ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because even in the book, they mention how Carfax Abbey is like kind of run down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this is something that's like really true to the character Dracula.
Yeah. It's also too, the I'd be curious in terms of like, sort of your assessment of the character, or like, one of the things I go on my channel about how a lot of these old monster movies, there's been a lot of like, neurodivergent readings of like Frankenstein's monster, surely, like, that's like in terms of like being representation or like a good allegory for the neurodivergent experience in some way, or autistic experience, certainly with Frankenstein. But even just like those small things, I think for me, they seem like very relatable. Like even just the idea of like, I'm buying this old house and like, but instead of ever like all the quote unquote like, normal people are like, oh, you're gonna fix it up, right? But then the people are like, but then Dracula's like, well, no, I kind of like it. I kind of like it the way it is. Like,
Yeah.
my old, which is like, it's those small things even of just like, when people, it's like, I have 2,300 movies. You have a house full of Dracula stuff, right? Right? It's like,
Right, yeah.
I don't want like the normal stuff. I want it like this, Do you feel that way? It was
Right.
like, is that a connection you feel with them?
Definitely. Because he's a character and even like when he's like interacting with like, well, even in the beginning with Renfield, he's trying to act normal. He doesn't want him to know that he's a vampire, and then he does the same thing with the other characters. That's masking.
Yeah, yeah.
He's covering up his true self. He's letting some of it slide through, because he is Count Dracula. He's an arrogant character who these humans are never going to catch on.
Yeah.
But he does kind of keep that facade of, no, I'm a human.
Yeah.
And that's like it's definitely like it's masking. And this isn't in the movie, but in the book, before Dracula goes to England, he's been researching it for years. He knows about the geography, the botany, the law, every little detail. It's like a special interest.
Yeah.
And then like the intensity of his emotions.
Absolutely.
Too, like that. I mean, I relate to that aspect.
He's his special interest is blood in a way,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I've definitely seen like felt that way about like the look he gives people when he wants to drink their blood. It's like I've seen a DVD at a store and I'm like, if I really want to buy the DVD,
That's what's so amazing about him is it's so. What makes it so creepy is so simple. It's just like, well, it's simple yet it's not, because you have to really know as an actor, you have to know your instrument. Like,
oh gosh, he's so good at that.
Oh my god, like the eyes and the expression, like when Renfield gets like the cut and it just like and it just like Dracula's immediately in like he's in hunter mode.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you mentioned something about sort of the masking, which I thought was when we talked about the way he learned the language. I kind of wanted to ask about that because like when you said he learned it phonetically, it's almost interesting. Like that's almost like a masking way of learning language as opposed to like a normal or learning lines, right? Because it's like it's almost like masking via language because he's not actually learning. Like when he first learned it, he wasn't learning the lines. He was learning to say it like what he thought like an English speaker would do, which is in kind of the same way. I feel like, many neurodivergent people, they don't necessarily, or however you want to say, like, don't necessarily learn like the actual thing, but it's like the masking is like you're trying to act like someone who does, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So for those who don't know, masking is like basically when you feel different. Usually we're talking about in terms of like being neurodivergent, but it's like if you feel different from the group you're in, and you pretend to be like them in order to fit in. That's like essentially what masking is, and really that's learning your lines that way. That is masking, because you're like, I'm just trying to cover it up so I look like like just a regular actor and no one knows.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's interesting. I think like a lot of, he was like, in many ways, it seemed like because of his background, probably uniquely qualified to be this character, you know, like to be Dracula. He's, as you said, he was from Transylvania, and like even like his not knowing English sounds like it probably just helped him create this sort of like unnerving thing at first. And then of course there's the mastery of his acting. You know, he was like
Yeah.
he was just a brilliant actor. You know, it's not all just
Right, yeah.
like he naturally prepared for it, but I think the confluence probably helped in many ways, I would think.
Right. I think definitely. I mean, first of all, growing up in Transylvania, so all your knowledge of vampires is, it's not really movies, it's not TV show, it's like local legends.
Yeah, it's folklore, right?
But because like the not necessarily Bela Lugosi, but like the more rural people who would have been like selling their vegetables like in the marketplace, some of them would have really believed in vampires.
Yeah.
The way like I live in the Chicago area, so like we have like the ghosts like Resurrection Mary and stuff like that, and I was brought up on stories about that.
Yeah.
So it definitely plays on how you know, his conception of what a vampire is would have been different.
Yeah.
In fact, one time there was an older lady in the audience who was also from Lugos, and she thought he was a vampire. So it was convincing to her, you know.
That poor lady.
Yeah, and so like that aspect, of course, influenced, you know, how we did the character, and then also that the feeling of being an outsider.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, like he was like, you know, he was able to have a conversation in English, but it was you know, his fourth language, and you know, typically the older you get, the harder that is to learn.
Yeah.
And he was about 40 when he came to America.
That's crazy.
You know, so so like there was this, he always did kind of have that kind of outsider feel to him. And even in Hollywood, he did, you know, he went to Hollywood parties when he had to, but he really didn't like to. He preferred parties at his house, where it would be his Hungarian friends, Hungarian artists, Hungarian musicians.
He was still kind of like a permanent outsider in America. Like
Yeah, exactly.
Into like, you know, English speaking America, I should say. Yeah. It's interesting.
So I feel like that.
Go ahead, sorry.
Oh yeah, so like that aspect definitely, I think, is part of like the connection between the characters, and then to his charisma too. I think there's a great story. There's a story of him one time. Him and the lady who played Lucy in the play, they went out for drinks afterwards, and Bela had 17 glasses of scotch, and he was ordering another one, and the waiter said, "I'm sorry, Mr. Lugosi, you had 17 glasses of scotch. We can't serve you any more alcohol." So he got up and said, "Come, we take our drinking elsewhere." And he did the trick where he pulled the tablecloth off and all the dishes stayed. And that's something Dracula did.
Absolutely. That's so cool.
So I feel it's like a combination of like his own personal, I mean, like a great actor would. It's a combination of his own personal experiences, his own personality, but infused with being a great actor and like figuring out this character.
100%. Yeah, that makes so much sense. The more I sort of learn about his history there, one probably you don't see that as much, I think, in modern movies. You know, there's a general complaint I have with some modern movies is that they're like very like there's an obsession, I think, with like being like kind of technically correct in a lot of ways. Like, you know, this is like for the time period it's technically correct, or like, which I don't personally, I don't care as much about. Like, if, you know, if a movie's set in the 1830s, like, it's cool that they have the 1830s stuff. It's fun to learn about and like whatever, but like whatever serves the story best is sort of what I want to see. Like, you know, in terms of like costumes or other things, like it's cool, but as my personal feeling as a movie watcher, it's not, you know, as relevant. But I wonder about that with like even dialect stuff. Like, you know, he might have had a dialect coach or something back in the 1920s, or maybe even people that said like, hey, you should say this line this way, or like the other way, or the other thing. But like, it doesn't feel like it was as prevalent, where I feel like if you did a Dracula now, it would almost be like, you know, there'd be like a standard to get to, you know, it'd be like a standard of like either speak English like this or do like a Hungarian accent like this, as opposed to Lugosi, who no one sounds like him. Like no one has ever sounded like that ever. Like,
Yeah.
but it's so fascinating and it's perfect. You know, it's like, it makes it, the experience of it, I think, singular, you know?
I think that's what's so powerful about it is it's not someone having to act the accent. That's just how he talked, you know. Like and he added the way he spoke and the pauses and everything like that. But in terms of the accent, that was just him.
Yeah. I think the closest modern example is that I can think of offhand is Javier Bardem, I think in No Country for Old Men. I believe before he did that movie, I don't think he could speak English very well, almost at all. And I think he did have to learn, like maybe for his audition or something, he had to get like a crash course in it. But I think he might have learned some of his lines phonetically as well. And his character is also very unnerving and off-putting, and sort of like it's meant to be this kind of almost human type thing in the story.
Right, yeah.
Which makes sense. You know, he's also got like, he's got a bit of Dracula to him, honestly. I don't know if you've seen No Country for Old Men, but it's a scary movie.
But a long time.
It's a scary movie. You could imagine him. I could see him now that I'm thinking about it, in The Cape, because he's kind of like a similar sort of like almost supernatural being in a way, his character in that. It's really, really good movie. I think he'd be a good vampire, Javier Bardem, that actor.
He would be. He actually really would be.
Yeah. So did you you know, it's when you said the his charisma, when you're talking about Lugosi's charisma, one thing I didn't like, just personally, I didn't like it as much, was the new Nosferatu. And that was actually, maybe I went in with a preconceived notion, the Robert Eggers one, because I thought it was hard for me to get over that the sort of the Dracula character, the vampire character, didn't have, like, I just was not charismatic. Like it was not, it was just more of like, I think he was going for more of like a psychological thing with I can't remember if it's Mina in the movie, but with the Belia Rose Depp, I believe, with like her, like he was almost supposed to be a representation of like some things in her, but he just was not charismatic at all in a way that I thought was interesting, but I don't know if it landed for me. So I was curious, like, is sort of the charisma or like the pull, you know, as you mentioned, like with like the alcohol anecdote of like, you know, or like him being like doing sort of just even in his personal life being very charismatic, is like sort of that kind of charisma, like a key part of like the Dracula thing as you watch other movies, like besides the classic ones or, you know, the 1931?
So in the novel, he's not really charismatic. He's not quite as this is gonna sound nice, but he's not quite as ugly as like Nosferatu, but he's not like super attractive either, you know. And where that really changed was in the Hamilton Dean English play, because the novel Dracula, if you ever read it, it's like humongous. And the play that the Hamilton Dean made, it was like a very like easy to produce draw and more mystery. And for those who don't know that term, like imagine like the game Clue, but done like seriously. And they changed in the story. It changed the character. Instead of being this kind of repulsive monster who had too long fingernails, bad breath, and was dressed in all black, that's when the character changed into this charismatic villain in the tuxedo and cape.
Yeah.
And then Bela Lugosi, of course, he infused it with his own charisma and also his own like sexual aura too.
Yeah.
Because in the 1920s, the big male silent film idol was Rudolph Valentino, and he was known as like it was like known as the first Latin lover. And of course, Rudolph Valentino, he died in 1926. Dracula on Broadway came out in 1927, and Bela Lugosi also had that exotic look, but literally from hell. Yeah. As Dracula.
Yeah. The kind of like, and that was a little bit of like the, you know, it's like a bit of a sort of the Western, like kind of, I guess, like Northwestern Europe, like sort of English speaking stereotype, I guess you could call it, of like the Latin lover, or even like, and I think that sort of extended all the way into like Transylvania, Hungary, like sort of Southeast Balkan, right? Like that whole sort of like, because like Italian too is like, you know, the thing of like the Italian lover, right? It's
yeah,
like from Spain
I need to double check it, but I don't even. I think Rudolph Valentino was Italian. I don't even think he was.
I would
but it was
think
just
so.
like that. It was just like it was the idea that you're exotic. You're not
Yeah,
like everyone else.
for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think he was the Latin lover. His name was Rodolfo Pietro Filiberto Raffaello Guglielmi di Valentina di Antonguella, and he was born in Castellaneta, the Kingdom of Italy. In Castellaneta, it looks like it's in sort of the heel of the boot, kind of like at the tip of the heel, like in that little bay that they have there in Italy. That's cool. I love those Italian names. They're always so long. You know, there's like
Right?
the classical. So cool.
You did such a great job of saying it too.
I was nervous. I was like, should I try this?
Well, you did great. You did fantastic.
Okay, so in terms of Dracula's, and I do want to come back to Bela Lugosi because Bobby was telling me that you're, and as you can tell, you said, you're as much of a Bela Lugosi fan, right, as Dracula. Do you have like a ranking?
To me,
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Because to me, like that, like they go so well together. It's like they're like,
oh yeah,
that is Dracula. You know,
absolutely. Do you have a ranking of, like, in your head? Do you keep like how many Draculas have there been in movies? Has there been? There's got to be like characters that played them at least like 5 to 10, right? I was just thinking, let me see if I can do this off the top of my head, and I'm gonna be able to get like 5 of them, I think. But there's the Bela Lugosi one. There's the Klaus Kinski one, right? Who was with Werner Herzog, which I haven't seen. Jack Palance, I know, did a Dracula, I want to say. There's the Nosferatu one that came out. There's Gary Oldman, so that's like at least 5. But I imagine there's been plenty more than that, right?
oh my, there's a Horror of Dracula with Christopher Lee,
That's
Dracula
right.
Frank Langella,
Like, how can I forget?
and there's
yeah.
I mean, there's so many there. I mean, there's the later Universal movies where John Carradine plays Dracula. There's a movie called Return of Dracula. Like he's really one of the most popular fictional characters ever. Really, I even saw I had to turn it off because it wasn't really my thing. But there was even a sci-fi movie called Sharkula.
That's cool.
Yeah, so like you just see like the character, he's everywhere,
Yeah, that's very cool. So and I guess there's been. Do you have like a ranking in your head? So if Lugosi's obviously number 1, right? He is the Dracula, and I can't imagine anyone. It would it obviously would be a very exciting day, I think, for the both of us if there was someone who came close to Bela Lugosi, right? That'd be the coolest thing. But do you have another favorite besides Lugosi in terms, like, is it Jack Palance? Is it Christopher Lee? Like Klaus Kinski?
Believe it or not, I think my next favorite would be Gary Oldman.
Okay, yeah.
I really, really like Bram Stoker's Dracula a lot, and it kind of reminds me of the 1931 Dracula.
Oh,
and that the 1931 Dracula, it's a very simple movie, but it made Dracula really iconic. And Bram Stoker's Dracula is a very operatic movie that's very aware of how iconic Dracula is.
yeah.
So it's like I feel like they go together, and like even like Bela Lugosi, like they don't mention him being like Vlad the Impaler or any of the warrior stuff, but you could tell like he's so confident. You get the impression that he could be a warrior.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But then with Gary Oldman, they explore it. So I feel like they kind of like. How Gary Oldman has the romantic element, and of course Bela Lugosi had that, but they also were both very scary, So that would be the next one for me. I also love the original Nosferatu and Christopher Lee, like they're wonderful too,
Yeah, absolutely. It's that the Bram Stoker's Dracula, by Francis Ford Coppola, who, for the audience, Godfather, Apocalypse Now, Megalopolis, one of the greatest directors, obviously, renowned as one of the greatest. Very much when I watched it, I've seen it twice. The first time I gave it like 4 stars. I was like, this is solid, this is good, I liked it a lot. And I watched it at home and I was like, this is really good and it's fun. But then last year I got to see it in a theater, and the experience of seeing that movie in a theater, it's like, that is like easy 5 stars. Like, that is like, it is such a theater movie. Like, that movie is like a number 1 on sort of like, it's not the same if it's not on like a 40-foot screen. That movie was meant just like, and I honestly, this Dracula, I would love to see I hope they play it at a theater near me soon. I know you said you're up in the Chicago area. I don't know if like the Music Box, I have some friends up there. I love all the theaters they got up there, but like Music Box or, what's the other, Siskel, the Gene Siskel. Yeah. Have you seen
I saw Creature. I've seen the Bela. Oh, I'm sorry. I mean,
No, not at all.
So I've seen the Bela Lugosi Dracula 3 times at the movie theater.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
It is incredible.
How is it? See, because it's seeing him. I have a 75-inch TV, and so like, that's like the biggest thing I can recommend for people out there is like get the biggest TV you can, because like there's just the movies just look better the bigger they are. But I can't imagine seeing those close-ups on Lugosi like 100 feet tall. That must have been crazy.
It was amazing. It was amazing. And the first time I saw it in the theater, Bela Lugosi Jr. introduced it.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it was incredible. Yeah, it was at it was like Universal Monster Fest, and Bela Lugosi Jr., Sarah Karloff, and Lon Chaney Jr.'s grandson were there.
That's so cool. That's very cool.
It was amazing. It really was. And so I've seen that at the theater 3 times. I saw Creature from the Black Lagoon at the Music Box.
Oh, that's cool.
And then I saw Bram Stoker. Yeah, oh my god. And I saw Bram Stoker's Dracula, where they had a live orchestra play the music.
Oh wow. I would love to see that. The score is so good in that movie.
Oh yeah, it was amazing. Yeah.
You know one thing.
And I want to say.
Go ahead, sorry.
Okay.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I want to say Bram Stoker's Dracula. That's my second favorite Renfield too. Tom Waits.
Oh yeah.
Drive Fry is my number 1 Renfield, but then Tom Waits is my second one.
Yeah, definitely. I think like the thing about that movie, I also love in addition to like, the score's good. The set design is crazy in the way he shoots it. Like, there's the, like with all the silhouettes and like one thing, it makes me a little sad. A lot of stuff about modern movies makes me a little sad, but like there's you can tell in that movie. And also the other movie I think about this is The Elephant Man. I don't know if you've seen with David Lynch's The Elephant Man. You could tell that David Lynch and Coppola just love these old monster movies. Like they just adored them. Like I think Elephant Man I've always thought is, one of my favorite movies because like, I think it sort of finishes, I think, this setup that all these monster movies were hoping to do, and really Freaks is kind of the only one that does it a little, where like all these old monster movies we talked about, like neurodivergent representation or autistic representation or the Wolfman, or like, I've talked a lot on my channel about the Invisible Man as like queer representation, but they had to be monster movies. It's like they had to be the bad guy. But the Elephant Man, I feel like, but they were like, you could very strongly tell that the creators were like, give this character a lot of empathy, like, like please, like you should empathize, and like this isn't just some monster, it's not just like some other, it's like a lot of these movies were being made by queer and neurodivergent people themselves, and so they were like, they put a lot of empathy in them. And I think the Elephant Man, like, it sort of, it's like once censorship got away and you were able to sort of tell stories about other people, I think, like without making them villains, I think Lynch was like, okay, let's make a movie that's sort of purely empathetic for one of these old monster movies. Like it's an old monster movie, but it's not a monster, right? And so I think with that and the Coppola and the Bram Stokers, they had such an affection, I think, for these old movies that feels missing in some of the like last 20 years of stuff. Like, do you find that as like, do you see a lot of connection? Like, obviously there's like the connection movie history, but like in the last like 20 years or 10, 20 years, it almost doesn't seem like they've paid attention to this era of monster movies as much as maybe like some of the guys in like the 80s and 90s. Even like George Lucas with Star Wars, right? He very much loved those old adventure shows, like him and So do you find that, like, do you still see a lot of connection between like explicit connection? Like, can you tell if a movie, like if a director or something, or like, can you tell if they're a real big fan of Dracula, like you can with Bram Stoker's? Have you seen that a lot?
Not as much. I mean, sometimes you could see it depending on what it is. So it's not like it's completely absent.
Yeah.
And I was able to, I wish I remember his name, but he was so nice. I interviewed the actor who played the vampire in the Salem's Lot remake.
Okay.
And and I asked him like what his influences were, and he mentioned Bela Lugosi.
Very
And I
cool.
asked him like what specifically, and he said the stillness, the sense that you're the living dead.
Gotcha.
So I feel it's cool power, but it's in terms like you'll still see it, but I feel like it was much more like it had a stronger reach before.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it's still there, but not as like strongly.
Gotcha. Is the was it I'm looking up the name, was it Alexander Ward as the vampire?
Yeah, I
Was
think
that
so. And
was
he
that
played
the actor name?
vampires. Yeah,
Yeah. Kurt Barlow, maybe? It was like the
yeah,
main
Cooper,
guy.
yeah,
Yeah. Cool.
yeah, Cooper, yeah, Mr. Barlow, yeah.
Yeah. So you got to meet him. That's really cool.
Yeah, he was so nice too. Because it was the first time I'd ever been to a horror convention with a press pass, so I was kind of nervous, you know. but he was like so nice to me.
You should get access to all horror conventions with the press pass. That would be,
Oh,
you know, yeah,
thank you so much.
absolutely.
Oh, something I wanted to say. As we were talking, like how James Whale, he brought a lot of that sensibility, to Frankenstein. Todd Browning, the director of Dracula, he'd worked in the circus, and of course that was where a lot of people with disabilities where they worked
The
at.
quote unquote
So
freak.
he was a very yeah.
Yeah.
So he was very much. So he was with them, people who at that time were especially ostracized in society. But he saw these are people too, and I think you see that a lot in all of his movies.
Yeah.
And interesting thing about Todd Browning, when he was in the circus, he did this stunt called the hypnotic living corpse, where he'd be hypnotized, put in a coffin, and buried alive.
Oh, wow.
Now they had this like tube. Yeah, they had this like tube thing so that people could see him and he could still breathe, but he'd be in there 6 feet under from Friday through Sunday.
That's crazy.
So like the perfect director for Dracula.
Yeah.
And think about
Absolutely.
like the shot of Dracula coming out of his coffin, how he does that. Like remember how Bela Lugosi, how he does that, or his like fingers kind of look like spider legs.
Mm-hmm.
So like I don't know who created that. I know Bela Lugosi, he was always very receptive to directors and like interested in their input. So like who knows if Bela Lugosi thought of that or Todd Browning, but it's like even just the leaving of the coffin, that's something that they put thought into is how we're gonna do this.
Yeah, that's so cool. I didn't know that about. I need to see more of his movies. I have a nice box set. I think he also did The Mystic, and it has another one. But yeah, Todd Browning, I mean, he made two of like, I think he has like two movies in my top. I don't know where Dracula is in my top whatever. It's certainly in my top 100. Freaks, I think, was like in my top 15, 20. That was like one of my, I was just sobbing by the end of that. But like,
it's amazing.
I just ordered a bunch more of his movies because I haven't seen, there's a bunch for sale on Kino Lorber. I think a couple of his silent movies. So I'm excited to watch more Todd Browning. Absolutely.
Definitely check out. Check out the movie The Unknown with Lon Chaney. That's my favorite Todd Browning movie.
That's your
yes.
Yeah, I think it's Carnival. Okay, yeah, stars Lon Chaney's Alonzo the Armless. How about that? Oh, and Joan Crawford. Okay, then now I'm down. Yeah. Okay, I'll watch anything with Joan Crawford. She's great.
Oh, she is. Yeah, and she really credited like Lon Chaney for like teaching her how to like really go into the depths of your character.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the box set has I think it's The Mystic, The Unknown, and Freaks in it, I want to say, with Todd Browning. So that's super exciting. Okay, so you said it was Gary Oldman in, I love his suit, by the way. Just always got to shout out the red armor. Another thing that I think, like, just when we were talking about like set design, like, or like costume design, like, I'm okay if people say like, I really want to focus on like this story takes place in the 1830s, but it's 1830s, but like, so we'll costume design for the 1830s, but the Gary Oldman armor in that, I don't think that's from any time period. I think they just hired some cool designer, and I think they just said go crazy. And actually, do you know what else that lady did? I'm gonna what's her there's a famous piece of trivia about her. She designed, I believe, a sports team logo. I don't know if you know this. This would be a big get for me. Aiko Ishioka, I think. She is a Japanese art director and costume designer. And art director, costume designer, and graphic designer known for her work in stage, screen, advertising, and print media. She won the Oscar for Best Costume Design for her work on the Bram Stoker's Dracula. And she also, I believe, she designed the logo for the Houston Rockets. So that's like a little bit of trivia there, like, which is a really cool.
So cool.
Yeah. It's like the one that's like an R that's kind of looks like very, and I might actually let me see if I might be able to share my screen on this thing. But this Houston, which kind of looks like this could be right out of
you could once you know that she worked on Bram Stoker's Dracula, you can kind of see it.
Yeah. So shout out Aiko Ishioka, because it's like this could be like if if Gary Oldman Dracula was like, if he was a basketball fan, he definitely would root for this.
It's even like the first line, it kind of looks like a wooden stake.
It does, yeah. Yeah. So she designed that, which I always thought was really cool. Shout out.
Oh, that's amazing.
Ishioka.
Yeah.
Looks like she also did the production designer for the film Mishima 1985 by Paul Schrader, which I didn't know, which I haven't seen, but I've seen stills of it. And it looks like the craziest production design I've ever seen. So I'm real excited to watch that. That's so cool. Yeah. So honestly, I would just like, costume designers out there, do whatever, make it just look cool.
Well, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So okay, so you got Gary.
Oh,
go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, and look at the costume design for Bela Lugosi's Dracula.
Yeah.
Like that. I mean, like we don't really think about it because it's so iconic, but like for real, like the medallion and that's one of the most iconic costumes ever.
It's a perfect match between character and costume, because like he is also like he is like formally dressed one level sort of above everyone else. It's almost interesting. You just sort of like you're triggering my mind about maybe thinking about this in a way that I haven't thought about the costume of it, but you could almost make this is going to be an armchair take at the moment, but there's almost like a class reading of it that you could take of Dracula that I'd be curious to maybe rewatch it with it in mind, because like, I don't know about you, but I didn't grow up with a ton of money. So I always get like, I always describe like my experience of going off to college and meeting a lot of rich people was like the Elephant Man, because it was just like, I felt like the Elephant Man just meeting a lot of these people of like, also finding out that I'm more than a little bit neurodivergent. It's like, okay, there's other reasons why I kind of felt like sort of alienated, from these people. But I'd be curious, like, this movie, also The Invisible Man, that's one thing that if you read about James Whale, who did for the viewers Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein and The Invisible Man, they will say about him, like when people have talked about like, did his homosexuality or queerness inform Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, and The Invisible Man? And I think for sure it did. But people who knew him will say that like it's definitely, they will say like, maybe on the queer stuff, but they will say absolutely for sure he was like an ardent sort of socialist and leftist and organizer, in the same way that you mentioned Lugosi was in terms of like organizing like an actors union and stuff. Like James Whale grew up poor in Britain and then went into like, and always felt sort of alienated both because he was queer, at the time in Britain, not an easy thing to be, and he was also poor, not an easy thing to be. And I think he himself, I would imagine, had some experience with being neurodivergent. I would bet a lot of money on it just because of the portrayal of like Frankenstein and in The Invisible Man. Like there's a lot of subtle things in terms of like people being like the characters being sort of like sensitive to touch or interruption, or like some of these things like that to me call out like them as sort of being neurodivergent. But I'd be curious on the class stuff, like for Dracula, like he's almost dressed like a level even richer than these people in Britain. Like in a way that almost inverts the class expectation. Like the people in Van Helsing and all the people at like the asylum and the sanatorium or whatever, like they are rich and more upper class, and then there's sort of the poorer lower class, like there's like the security person guard and the nurse, who are like sort of like a class below them, and it's very obvious, like the way they talk to them, like the class difference. But then when Dracula comes, it's almost kind of inverts that, where he's like a level above them with the cape and the formality, and like he's like, it's like there's black tie and then there's white tie, right? Like white tie is even like a level above, which obviously he's white tie. He's a level above formality wise in terms of that. So I don't know, I'm just kind of rambling here, but that's kind of fascinating to think about, of like he almost inverts a position because he's more powerful than them. Like their whole, it's like extra horrifying to them as upper class people, because their whole existence has been both like their whole existence has been sort of subjugating, people who are mentally ill or putting them in the sanatorium, and they have a lot of control. But then it's an inverted power relationship, I guess, when Dracula comes, right? It's like both a class and a power structure, because now he's able to control them in a way that they put upon poor and like more sort of mentally ill or like different neurodivergent people, right? Sorry, I'm random. I don't even know if it's a question, but it's kind of fascinating to think about when you're talking about his costume.
I agree. I agree. I mean, first of all, him being wealthy, because I mean, he is a count. He is. He's dressed. He doesn't just have on the white tie and tails. He's got on a cape. He's got on this like war medal, and you could tell that and even like when he'll say stuff like, "There are far worse things awaiting man than death." If that was a poor person, they'd be like, "This guy's a kook." But because he's wealthy, it is a thing in our society that like, that if someone's wealthy and says something like that, they're eccentric.
Yeah.
And that's why, and I think the way there's a scene in this when they're at the concert hall. It's so fascinating to me if you watch the how it's played out, is because the hallway in the concert hall is lower than the theater box, and Dr. Seward, Mina, Lucy, and Jonathan Harker are in the theater box. So first, Dr. Seward Dracula comes up with this incredible trick because he wants to monitor his victims. He's a hunter.
Yeah.
And so he hypnotizes the person working there to tell Dr. Seward he has a phone call, and that's why he opens the door to the theater box. And first, Dracula is standing in the hall, and he's lower than them, right?
Yeah.
And Dr. Seward welcomes him, and Jonathan Harker stands up, and Dracula comes in. Then Dr. Seward leaves to go get his phone call, and Jonathan Harker sits back down. So he went from lower, equal height, Jonathan Harker and Dr. Seward. Now everyone's sitting down. Yeah. Lower, same dominance.
Yeah. Jeez. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and to your point about like even the count stuff, like that's how he's introduced. The Spanish Dracula is fresh in my head because I watched it just last night. But just like in the Spanish one as well, like I think he's introduced, like he tells the person, he's like, go tell I think it's I can't remember, it's the dad, it's Mina Harker's dad, right? That he has a phone call or something, and then when he comes out, he's introduced himself as Count, and to your point, he's just immediately trusted because he's an upper class Count,
Right? Yeah.
Fascinating. Yeah. Yeah, that was my complaint. Go ahead. Sorry.
They literally not only they welcome him to the theater box, they welcome him into their home.
Yeah, because how could a Count
be
evil?
How could a Count be evil? Yeah, what could go wrong?
Yeah.
And wow, it almost looks more. Look who we're entertaining. We're entertaining a Count.
Yeah. Yeah, even the way they sort of like fight back against him and whatever, it's like, I can't imagine they were too, like, they sort of like immediately just throw Renfield into a cell. But with Dracula, even when they see him in the mirror, like, or they don't see him in the mirror, more accurately, they don't see him in the mirror, it's like they don't just be like, all right, throw him in a cell. it's like, I think because he's like a count, it's like they gotta like find another way to sort of defeat him, or, you know, like they can't just sort of throw, which like that gets into like a very sort of deep social idea about, you know, who gets put in like mental institutions, whatever, right? It's like, which is like a big,
Right.
certainly a big thing in like, for neurodivergent people. I mean, you and I are fortunate to live in the time that we do now. Like, it's a horrible thing to say, but like,
Yeah.
you know, not even many years ago, like I even just think about like, it's, you know, not to get too sad, but like, my dad, I don't know how much I'll keep this in the pod, but like, there's a certain family member of like my dad's generation who was like, you know, they all grew up in like the 50s and 60s and 70s, like, who had like a mental condition that people knew about. I don't want to go too much into it, but he also was like very clearly autistic, and like, you know, so like, but no one, he just didn't get any support, and like, you know, he didn't get like any, it's just different back then and everything. And so like,
Right.
yeah, I guess like, you know, your point about like, if he's rich, he's eccentric, you know, that's like, that was one of the, I think it was after we watched The Invisible Man and less of the, like, after we watched like, I can't remember which of these old horror movies, it might have even been, like The Strange Door with Charles Lawton, who I love Charles Lawton, you know, he's such a great actor. But my buddy and I were just like, man, we need to get some money, because it's like so much of like, you know, he's really big, and he's like kind of neurodivergent for like synthesizers and making music and all this stuff. And me with the movies, I'm like, you know, if we just had a lot of money, it'd be like, oh, yeah, he's just eccentric. That's just a, that's just an eccentric guy.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. As opposed to, unfortunately, yeah, if you're, the difference between how they treat Renfield and Dracula, I think says a lot about class, for sure.
I mean, he's immediately, Renfield's immediately locked up in the sanitarium.
Yeah.
And Dracula, it's treated as a very unusual social faux pas, and
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah, it's a faux pas. Yeah.
You know.
Well, even, I mean, if you want to get like, you know, sort of like the darker side of Dracula's character, and sort of like, you know, where he's sort of like, I think they're kind of hinting at darker things, is like his, as he like sort of like assaults or like seduces the women, right? Like that's like, I think there's like some implication of like maybe he's doing more than just biting him on the neck, right? But you can't show it because it's the 30s, and like, you know, certainly that's been a thing in like a lot of other Dracula stories. But even the way, you know, thinking like we live in an age where a lot of celebrities and powerful people, like, they get away with it, you know, like if you have money, it's like, that's also the thing of like making, you know, he's able to sort of get away with like the power stuff and the bad stuff he does to women because he's wealthy, you know, because they don't, it's like in a different way than I guess being like being a poor person would, which is the way society works. Like his movies, they say says so much about like social class stuff, I think.
It really does, yeah.
Yeah.
That they catch him because of Van Helsing, but if they didn't have Van Helsing, they would never figure out that Dracula was a vampire.
Yeah, who's also an outsider,
you know,
and that's interesting, right?
He's also an outsider. Yeah, he was also an outsider. Someone he's also from another country, you know, and so it's like you need someone who's like outside of the system to see what's really happening.
Yeah, yeah, because a lot of the people, and it's like that's what happened with like Harvey Weinstein, right? It's like everyone, like many people in Hollywood kind of had like either knew or had a feeling of what was going on, but it took like a journalist or something to like start breaking the story. And, you know, obviously women speaking up, but the women weren't believed by like the power structure. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the same way, I think that happens in a lot of Dracula movies, where it's like the, you know, that was one thing I thought, I'd be curious about your take on the Spanish Dracula, about like the differences or like whatever you felt. Cause like the Spanish Dracula sort of felt more sexual to me. Like there was more like, I thought I can't remember the Dracula who, the fellow who portrayed him. What was the person's name?
It's like Carlos Villarreal.
Yeah. Carlos. I'm not going to say the name, Villarreal, I think. Villarreal. I think.
Villarreal.
Carlos Villarreal, yeah. Villarreal, probably. Villarreal, I think he portrayed. I thought he was a little bit sadder as his performance of a Dracula. Like he seemed more. That's one thing I really did like about his performance. Like he seemed a little sadder in terms of like what he felt compelled to do, and also I just thought like it just felt a lot more sexual, the movie in general. Like there was more like Freudian stuff going on and like stuff between Mina Harker and his daughter. You know.
Yeah, I agree. Like that, the Bela Lugosi one, I feel is like more haunting and more ghostly.
Yes, that's perfect.
Whereas the Spanish one, it's more it's like more physical.
Yeah,
And like the actress who played the character is Nina, but in the movie, her character name is Eva, and she's a very like her as she's becoming like under the Dracula influence, she becomes more voluptuous.
Yeah,
and and even the Bride movie, they're more aggressive. Even the Renfield.
Yeah.
In the movie, he is like the Renfield in the Spanish Dracula. He's like when he's going crazy, he's like a wild animal. The way he jumps up all around sets and does all these physical things. So it's a much more like a physical type movie.
For sure. I loved his Renfield, I gotta say. I really did I thought he did really well as Pablo Alvarez Rubio. Shout out to him.
Oh, he was amazing as Renfield. He was Dwight Fry will always be my favorite, but Pablo does a great job too.
Right, though, of being like haunting and stuff. That was actually the thing I noticed I think the first time I watched the 31 Dracula was just like Dwight Fry is out of his mind in that movie. Like his performance, like he is as unnerving. I can't even do his eyes, but just like it feels like he's constantly just looking to the side. Like he is as unnerving in his own way as Dracula is. Just like especially, but he does so well at the beginning, right? Like he's not, and then he gets the bite of Dracula, and like it's almost like he studied like Lugosi in some ways. Like how would if I just got Lugosi's genes somehow, how would which is what the movie should be, but
right,
yeah, you were saying,
well, that's right, because both like Bela Lugosi, you remember I mentioned he would stare into the mirror to get into character and repeat over and over, "I am Dracula, I am Dracula." Dwight Fry, he was an early method actor too, and you could see that he's going much just like Bela Lugosi is. He's going much deeper with this character, and even like in the opening scenes, he's such a gentleman, but there's also like a fragile quality to his character.
Yeah.
And what I love is right after Dracula says, "The spider spinning his web for the unwary fly. The blood is the life, Mr. Renfield." And Renfield's he does like a nervous laugh, like yes. And then when you think about it, when he's on the ship and he sees Dracula kill the entire crew, and then after that he's going so it's like that nervous laugh, but to all the trauma he's seen, so that's such a what a great amazing acting choice that he included that into his sorry about that. They included that into his character, and he's so great. Like his eyes are just like they pop just like Bela Lugosi's.
Yeah.
And the laugh he created for the role, and what's so amazing about him too, is that he is able to kind of go back and forth between being a really tortured character than to being a really scary character. Because that scene, you get Dracula's influence, like that scene when he goes to in the Spanish one, it's revealed that the maid has like a fly on her, and that's what Renfield's going for. But in English, you don't see the fly. It looks like he's becoming a vampire. That's the shot when he's climbing towards the maid. But then also Dwight Fry, he's got this incredible comic timing too.
Yeah.
And he adds that element to the character, and I love that scene with him and Martin, and he's like spiders now, is it? Flies ain't good enough for you. And he says, "Flies, poor puny thing, who wants to eat flies? You do, you loony. Not when I can have nice fat spiders." And he's incredible in this role,
He's so good. I love that.
And
Yeah.
I also I want to give a shout out to Edward Van Sloan as Professor Van Helsing too,
Oh yeah.
because he's he's not action packed Peter Cushing or Anthony Hopkins, but this was like one of the first big supernatural horror movies to come out of Hollywood.
Yeah.
And what Edward Van Sloan does so well is he makes you believe everything he's saying.
Mm. Yeah.
When he explains what vampires do, you believe it.
Yeah.
And I think it is part of, like, yes, a lot of it is Bela Lugosi, but I think the way, like, Edward Van Sloan just puts this earnestness into it, I think it's part of why the lore in that movie is what we continue to have.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, he's I mean, honestly, everyone in these movies is, they're just all so good, I just like even like the nurse and the security guard. I just love those little bit characters. There's just such an affection there.
And like David Manners, who plays Jonathan Harker, and Bela Lugosi, like in real life, the two of them didn't like each other, and you could tell. You could tell. But they should, in the movie, because they're both going for Mia. They're romantic rivals, right? Yeah. And you like. Because I don't know because Bela Lugosi, I know he talked to his wife, fourth wife Lillian, about how much he disliked David Manners, and David Manners referred to Bela as a big star in his own mind.
He's wrong about that. He's a big star in everyone's mind. I will say, Team Bela on that.
Yeah.
Not that no offense to David Manners. Go ahead, sorry.
Right, yeah, but the movie, it's perfect because these characters should dislike each other. You could tell that they have like this. It's very subtle, but you could tell they have disgust for each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then also I love Frances Dade is Lucy, and I love. I'm gonna circle back to it. I love like her short. She has that 1920s hair, and then Helen Chandler, who plays Mina, she was suffering from appendicitis when she made this, and you tell that this character is in pain.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. God, that must have been rough to be suffering from that.
Right, because I hit that when I was like 7. It's very painful.
I can imagine. Knock on wood, I've been fortunate to not have it.
And like acting, remember designs.
Yeah. How much, I'm curious, so how many times do you think you've seen Dracula just as like this movie? Like, I remember on one of your on one of your videos on your channel, you said, I think it's one of your intros or one of the pin ones. You said like, I'm an autistic adult and like, I watch Dracula a lot. So I'm curious, like, do you have a sense in your head of like how, like, is it, I'm imagining it's hundreds probably, right? Thousands maybe? Have you seen like the 31 Dracula?
It probably is.
That's so cool.
It probably is something. I watch it at least a couple times every week, like it's
so
my comfort
cool.
movie. Like,
yeah.
Right? Like it feels like just like hearing like their voices and like seeing all of them. Like it's just like they're like, it's amazing. This movie's from 1931, but they feel like old friends to me.
Yeah, that's so cool. And was it like that? Like, I guess like growing up, you said like you almost like don't remember a time when Dracula wasn't your favorite character. But I'm curious, like, is it like, when did you first see it? Like this specific one? I can't remember. I might have asked you this already, but my memory's not too great, so apologies.
I was 7 years old. That's all right. I was 7 years old, and I rented it from the video store, and that was the first time I saw it. And then I think it was the next Christmas, my mom got me like the main 8 Universal Monster movies on videotape.
Oh, that's so cool.
And then that's when I was really able to watch it all the time.
Yeah, that's such a great gift. That's a tremendous gift. Yeah, that must have been a tremendous gift for you as a Christmas gift.
Oh my God, it was incredible. It was incredible.
So you've been watching it like a couple of weeks, like since you've gotten that box set, more or less, you think? Has it been like that, or is it like in the last?
I'm sorry?
5? I was just curious. Like, has it been like since, like, I guess you would have been 8 or 9 or something? Like, when you like, is that when you sort of started watching it a few times a week? Like since then, and it's just been like that?
Honestly, yeah, that's when I started like getting more and more into it. Yeah,
that's so cool.
And then as I got older, I was able to start like because in the 90s before like the internet, it was hard. But as like I got older and like I had the internet and like DVDs started having special features and I was able to order books online, like that's when I was able to start like really learning about it.
Yeah, that's so cool. So, I'd like to ask, like, you make your content is so tremendous, and please everyone go and follow. It's Lugosi Theater on, on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. Please go follow Bobby right now, because it's one of the best channels on any of those platforms. And one of the things you talk about, Bobby, is
Thank
you
you
talk
so much.
about. I mean that honestly, like, even, it's just like, I mean it totally honestly. I just love it. I'm always happy when I see you pop up in my feed, like, truly. But not just because, like, you're
So
like,
much.
you yourself are charismatic, and like, I also love these old monster movies and Dracula and stuff, but also just like you have like a way of communicating, I think, like, honestly and openly about your experiences as an autistic adult. So I'd be curious, in light of that, when you say like it's like a comfort movie, or like these are old friends, like what does that mean? Like, if you had to describe that to like audience people who are listening, like the idea of like, for you, like a comfort, not like speaking in general about autistic people, but like what does like this being a comfort movie mean to you yourself, I guess?
It, it a comfort thing would be: is there something in your life that you can experience, and it honestly just puts you've had a stressful day, and it somehow makes you feel better.
Yeah.
It's somehow it regulates you. It's like you taking that time to watch it. It just puts you back. It puts you back to normal, where you feel
mean
yourself
like
again.
your hair might be like, I don't know, like if you like sometimes, for me, and I don't know if I have like, there's like I should probably write them down, because there's like specific comfort movies. There's movies I could watch that I know that would just sort of put me in that stage. Like, and it's a weird genre, because it's like Tom Cruise movies for sure. Like any Tom Cruise, like Mission Impossible, like for whatever reason, like he's just so good at making movies that like basically anything he does, it's just like I'm just happy afterwards. But also like Werner Herzog
Uh-huh.
documentaries. Werner Herzog made, I think, is a Dracula director himself, but his documentaries, just for whatever, like he's such a good documentary guy that like I watched this one in a African, I think it's called like Wadabi, about this like African mating ceremony, and excuse me, these tribes people, 2 nights ago, because I was just like kind of feeling a little off, so I was just like, I'll just put this on, and felt great afterwards. But it's almost like it's like an over, like hair raising on edge, and then it kind of regulates you, like it kind of calms you down and like gets you like into a happier place. Is
Yeah,
that the way you describe it?
it does. Yeah, it gets me into a happier place. It kind of
Yeah.
puts me in touch with like because obviously I love Dracula, so it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is what I love. Like,
Yeah.
and because like my life, I'm like, because my life is very like Dracula centered. Like, I work, I work at haunted houses. I do a lot of videos. Last weekend I was at a horror convention dressed as Dracula,
That's so
and
cool.
like, I love it. I love it, but sometimes it does get a little hectic, and so when I just put in that movie, it's like, yeah, this is why I love it.
Yeah.
This is right here. Like,
Yeah. I noticed you do that, like, it's similar. Is it like a similar thing to like you often in many of your videos, you have like the noise canceling headphones on in public, which you recommend is like I think I've seen a
yeah,
video or two where you recommend of like if you get overstimulated in public, right? So is it like a
yeah,
similar thing
yeah.
of like what those kind of do of like, no, I guess those like sort of more protect you, but this like comfort movie just like kind of brings you, it's almost like some type of, it's like I don't know, it's like the blood to Dracula, right? It's like you just kind of it probably makes you
Yeah,
feel good,
yeah,
right?
honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the Blood to Dracula, yeah. Where it's that me time of just like and just of just making me feel good.
Yeah.
And in a way it is sort of like because it's something I need. I would like I'd be devastated if I couldn't watch it. Like,
Yeah.
and it puts me in my comfort place. It makes me happy, and if stuff is stressful going on, at least I know like this hour and 14 minutes, like this is
Yeah.
this is Dracula time.
How much do you think, like, and I'm not challenging you to do this at the moment, but like if you had to sort of like, do you think you could like recall the whole movie? Like, cause you're so good with these quotes, I've noticed, like probably, cause you've seen it so many times. Like if you just had to
Thank you.
go, could you do like a 1-man show of it, you think?
I think I could. I totally could do a 1-man show of it. I would love to do that.
I would pay that. Bobby,
Thank you.
yeah, I would love to see that. Like that would be so cool. I think the, Music Box, if you're listening, I think they have a stage up there. Cause I think when I went and saw, I think they have like a little mini stage they could probably do. Yeah. Someone should let you
Thank
do
you.
that.
Yeah, because I remember someone introduced me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I
That'd be
would
so
love
cool.
that.
I would love to see that. That'd be tremendous. Yeah,
Music Box Theater, hear and obey.
Yeah, that'd be so cool. Yeah, I bet you, we might start like a crowdfunding or something for that, because that'd be real fun to do. I'm sure many of your other fans would also love to see that.
I honestly, one night I'll have to do it as a live stream too.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I'm sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
That'd be awesome. All right. So we were talking, I did want to ask you, so, we were just talking about, like sort of, experiences, like sort of what's a comfort movie. So I'd be curious, like, like what is, if you had to communicate something about like autism to like someone who wasn't familiar with it, or maybe they had like a acquaintance or friend, or they met someone who like, what's sort of like your I don't know if rundown is the right word, or like, how would you describe it to someone, like sort of your experience of being an autistic adult or autistic person?
Well, it's your mind is wired differently.
Hmm.
So you have it's you have your now keep in mind every autistic person is different. So like some of these things that may not apply to everyone, but it's as myself, I'm more focused than than a lot of people. I have difficulties with socializing and things, and it's basically it's it's hard to explain, but it's really
Sure.
it's like it's you have your mind just works differently than neurotypical people do. So
Yeah.
your strengths and weaknesses, they they may not seem like the typical strengths and weaknesses a neurotypical person would have.
Yeah.
Like so I mean, you see me playing Dracula and doing public speaking at events, but because I have difficulty with motor skills, so I still have I struggle with tying my shoes, and you wouldn't.
Hmm.
And then that's an example is like so like whatever the strengths and weaknesses, you can't think of it as how it would be with a neurotypical person, because you have your skills are really all over the map.
Yeah.
And then and even talking about what a special interest is. Now, not every autistic person has a special interest, but in the autism is diagnosed with the autism DSM,
Hmm.
and in the section B, you have to have like 2 out of 4, and one of the 4 is having a highly restricted fixated interest that is abnormal in intensity or focus.
Yeah.
Having something that you're really, 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 really into, well, that's not going to be with every autistic person. That is something that is more often than not you'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That's so. It's like, yeah. It is like I found like, so I have a few close friends and family that are varying degrees of autistic, and it is interesting to see the expression of it, because I have like, a friend of mine has a kid who is, has been diagnosed, and he sort of struggles more with like verbal stuff, right? Like he has a hard time sort of communicating. What's interesting with his though, and this was like something totally fascinating to me, as like I'd love to do like, I'd love to know more research. So if you're out there, and you have like more knowledge of this, please reach out to me, because I would love it. It's fascinating watching him, this kid, um, because the way my friend described it is like he doesn't have as much issues with input, but he has a hard time sort of like processing his output. So like he it's sort of like his expression of it is like an outward communication where like he is understanding actually quite a bit, and like he's not like a, you know, he's not having issues like sort of like understanding like learning things or like how to do things, or like, you know, he's very very intelligent in many ways, but he has like a huge struggle with like external communication. Like he just can't communicate his like wants and needs and desires, emotions, like things. So it's like that's the struggle around it, because I remember like, um it just like he was just sort of explaining to me sort of like the difference of that is like is kind of a nuanced thing that's certainly not every autistic person, right? But it's like,
Right. Yeah.
he's being able to process something without being able to sort of communicate it back. That is like definitely a spectrum in of itself. I think of Frankenstein's monster when I think of that. Not that I think of a kid like Frankenstein's monster, but like a lot of people have identified, and certainly me, like when I was talking about my experiences, like the Elephant Man, like that's kind of the identification, or like Frankenstein's monster. It's one of the reasons I love Frankenstein's monster so much is like, he's a guy who can't communicate. Like he can understand a whole lot more than he's able to actually communicate outwards. Like there's a deep, intelligent being in there that sort of struggles with the communication with the outside world, I think. So it's interesting that, you talk about the expression of it, because like, I would, when you say like, I'd be curious asking about how you like your perception of like struggling with social situations, because to me from the outside it seems like you're one of the most charming people I've ever met. It's just like you have like, and like people, well, just like seriously, like people, you have such a big following on TikTok and like all these places, and like I feel like when people see you, it's like, this is a cool dude, like whatever this guy's putting out I love. So I'm curious like how you perceive that on your side, because like, to me, it's just like, yeah, this guy's cool as hell.
Oh,
Like,
thank you.
he loves Dracula, like it's sick.
Well, a funny thing about that is, not not every autistic person, like I said, is the same, but a lot of autistic people struggle with eye contact.
Mm,
You hear a lot of people struggling to keep eye contact
yeah,
when talking. I had this thing where I like will sometimes be like more eye contact than like normal, where it's like
yeah,
I've even had a couple of people comment on the videos like, "Do you ever blink?" But I kind of like it because it makes me more like Dracula. Because you
yeah.
notice Dracula, Bela Lugosi doesn't blink.
Is that a reason why you think like you had that, like, was that going back even to your childhood? Like, is it like a thing that you notice of like, oh, this guy's like me in some way because he also is very intense stare?
I don't know if it was the because I wasn't aware of myself enough to know that, I did
That's a
this,
good
like,
point.
the eye contact, so I don't know if it was that specifically, but the intensity,
Mm,
definitely.
yeah.
The emotional because just the intense feeling in general.
Well, maybe it's yeah. I'd be curious. Like, maybe it was just like a feeling, like, because so much of like, yeah, it's like that's a great point that you weren't aware of yourself, right? Like of like
Right, yeah.
how, that maybe you were staring potentially more than normal, or like more than like neurotypical or allistic people would do potentially, right? I have the opposite with eye contact that you probably noticed talking to me. It's like I'm constantly looking down or like looking to the side or whatever. Um, Honestly, not because I find it is like, it just doesn't make me uncomfortable. I just do it and I don't know, it's just like, I feel like a lot of the times when I'm looking into people's eyes, like I will I start to think about, oh, what are they thinking? Like, and so, or like, how are they interpreting my media? Like, and as I'm trying to talk, like, I'll start thinking about, I wonder how they're receiving this or this or that, the other thing, which sort of like then makes me stumble over my words or like whatever. So if I look at something else, it's just like I can get my thought out as opposed to like, then I start worrying
Right.
about all these other things. But yeah, I'd be curious, like if there was something like maybe on something intrinsic maybe reached out to you and was just like, this person is a little bit like me in some way, or this character, I guess,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Because even, like, even, like, the shots of him just standing still, you get this sense of there's so much going on,
yeah,
like, in his head, you know?
yeah,
There is such a force inside his head. He's just standing still, but you feel it.
yeah.
And I think that's something I relate to, of like feeling like there's this like this intensity that's inside me.
Yeah.
So
It's
like,
also like maybe the way the characters reacted to Dracula too. I wonder if that's like, do you find any identification with that of like, as an autistic person, of like, maybe they're like when you immediately meet someone new, or like they, You know, like sometimes are they a little bit like, I don't know. It's like they're almost like a little like I've sometimes like to the extent I identify with like the Elephant Man or Frankenstein's monster. You know, it's like when I tell people I have 2,300 movies or something, like they can seem just a little bit, you know. So it's like I almost like identify the character not even as like definitely by like the way the character feels, but also by the way people engage with the character. You know, like by the way they treat him, if that makes sense. Do you find yourself like that at all? Like the way other people are reacting to Dracula sometimes? It's like, oh, that's reminds me of some of my experience.
You know, may, maybe actually, as you're explaining it, you know, because like I people tend to be really nice to me, you know,
Yeah.
but like so usually, people are very nice and very polite, like how they are to Count Dracula, you know.
Yeah.
But you some
Yeah. Absolutely.
but like I like but yeah, the maybe like the is that because sometimes like I'll talk more about my special interests or about Dracula or things than like a regular person would, and they kind of they sort of like almost like make allowance for that, like, oh, it's okay,
Mm.
he's Bobby, this is what he does,
Yeah.
and then too because I do go out as Dracula so much, like at horror conventions and things like that. So I and just like how Bela, Lugosi, and Dracula kind of became intertwined, I almost feel like that's not to the extent of him, but like I feel that too. I feel that
Yeah.
too. That like because I mean, I do wear my Dracula costume way more than like a regular person would,
Yeah.
like just going to conventions and doing videos and stuff. So I get that sense of like people are polite and accepting, but also making a certain degree of allowance, not because like not because I'm like rich like on Dracula, but
Uh-huh.
because like they get a sense that like
Different
he's
in
a
some
little bit
way.
different. Yeah, he's a little
Yeah.
bit different. But yeah,
What's interesting though, I'd be curious. So from the outside, when you're Dracula though, it feels to me, and this is just I'm not trying to tell you your experience. It doesn't feel like you're masking. You know, it feels like the masking would be if you didn't do this, right? Would that
yeah,
like if you weren't dressing up in like sort of your out persona as Dracula, that I feel like would be Bobby masking. But you as Dracula, that just feels like that's what you genuinely want, right?
yeah. No, no, I agree 100%. That's how it. I feel comfortable in this outfit.
Yeah.
Even if I'm like whether I'm like talking as Bobby, if I'm talking as Dracula, I feel like this is me. You
Yeah.
know, and even like
Absolutely.
when I'm like even when I'm wearing like regular people clothes, like you wouldn't believe how many Dracula shirts I have. You know, so there's always that kind of Dracula like symbolism going on with my outfit.
Yeah. It's to say I was literally just it's got to be like 100 movie shirts. I don't like a couple years ago. I just kind of made, as sort of, I guess you want to say late diagnosed or sort of late understanding. I just was like, what if I just have movie shirts because I just feel good in them? And so, literally, exclusively, I mean, even under this one, I don't know which one I even have on today. I have a Twin Peaks shirt. Yeah, underneath, like, because I don't have any like
Oh,
plain white shirts, so it's just like I just have a white Twin Peaks shirt. I wanted to have the collar for the like I didn't have the bow tie, but I wanted to wear like a white button up shirt. But underneath that I was like, oh, I'll just what white shirts do I have? And I have a Princess Bride white shirt, I have a Sopranos white shirt, I have a Twin Peaks white shirt. I only have movie stuff, so I
uh,
totally get that. Yeah, I should try out
you
dressing like Tony Soprano or something. That
Oh,
might be fun.
that'd be really
Yeah.
groovy. Yeah, that would be a really great outfit.
Yeah. Yeah, my hairline's getting there, I'm kind of like slowly developing into them. That's really cool. So it's a
Well, Tony Soprano. Well, I
what
hope
is
you
it?
like ice cream because he's always eating that.
Oh yeah, I do love ice cream. Yeah. He's watching old movies. That's kind of how he
Yeah, he is.
regulates a lot. He loves like Gary Cooper movies and westerns, like in a way.
Yeah, yeah. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely that is my night a lot of nights is eating ice cream and watching
I
old
love ice
movies.
cream too.
Yeah.
I actually, it's funny, I call it a blood float. And
Ooh.
this is something my grandma used to make me. It's like, it's the same principle as a root beer float, but instead of using root beer with the ice cream, use either cherry or strawberry soda.
Mm, that's really cool.
It's really, really, yeah. My
That
grandma
sounds
used to make
great.
it for me when I was little, and I still eat it. I call it the blood float.
I love strawberry soda. I don't know why it's not more popular. You know, it's like kind of hard
Right?
to find a lot. Yeah.
Even like strawberry crush with the vanilla ice cream is like so good together.
Yeah. Yeah. I really liked when I was a kid, we used to go to this like what it was like a pitch and putt golf course. It was like, you know, you pitched and you putt. I think it was like, you know, only pitching wedge and putt. My dad would take us there because my dad liked golf. And my favorite part was always the ice cream because they had like somewhere in Western Massachusetts where they had like whatever this ice cream place was, they had a whole bunch of dips. So you could get like a purple dip, like a soft serve with like a blackberry dip, but they also had butterscotch. And they had like cherry and strawberry. And so that was my always like kind of my go-to was like I get a vanilla cone with like a red like dip and like a cherry dip. And then it would just sort of look like blood kind of. You would have loved it, I think.
I love them.
It looked like blood sort of flowing down the ice cream.
I'm doing it. I was so excited. I'm doing it again this year. Last year, a Dairy Queen in the area was involved in like a sweet and savory crawl, and they actually hired me to be Count Dracula to be the
That's
entertainment.
oh,
And I'm
cool.
gonna be doing this in a few weeks again too. And at the end, I get free ice cream, and that's what I had. I had it where it was like the cherry dip.
That's so cool. You know, it's interesting that you say, you know, your grandma made you know, she made the
Blood float.
blood float. So your grandma made the blood float and you're talking about your mom bought you the classic Universal horror stuff on was it DVD or VHS? Which was your
VHS.
VHS? That's so cool.
Yeah.
Um
We're old like Dracula.
yeah. I think I have one of my like my headphones are too short, but I have one of my we used to have a copy of Happy Gilmore. That was one of my favorite movies as a kid.
Oh, cool. Oh,
Um
cool.
who honestly actually Adam Sandler, I feel like he's not a universal monster horror, but his persona in a lot of those 90 movies I always thought kind of leaned a little bit autistic, especially in Punch. I don't know if you ever seen Punch Drunk Love, but that was a
No,
big
I
movie.
haven't.
Oh, it's one of my favorites. That's like have you seen like Happy Gilmore or The Waterboy or Billy Madison, any of
Yeah,
those?
Gilmore, Big Daddy, Wedding
Yeah,
Singer, and
Big
of
Daddy.
course,
Yeah.
Hotel Transylvania.
I haven't seen that one. That's I need
Oh,
to
he does a very good Dracula.
that's cool. That makes sense. I need to yeah, I love him. He's great. I didn't realize he played Dracula. So that's another Dracula is Adam Sandler.
Right? Yeah, he really does a great job.
I'll have to check that out. But his like on-screen persona, I always like, you know, identified and it made sense a lot. Identified with as a kid, and then it sort of like opened my eyes with the movie Punch Drunk Love because like he's playing, you know, in that movie he kind of plays like a guy who has difficulty with social situations, and um he grew up in a big family, and he has a bunch of like kind of overbearing sisters, and like you know he like lashes out. He has like his sort of expression of it in that it kind of explains his other characters. Like it's almost like in the same way that like the Elephant Man is kind of like it helps explain some of the empathy that of the old horror movies, like of the old Dracula and Frankenstein, because it's like the movie should be these old monster movies. I think you know should be viewed as probably we view them. I think with like a lot of empathy towards the monsters. Um, Punch Drunk Love, I think, kind of explains Adam Sandler's persona in a lot of ways in Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison and everything, because it's like a more serious look at his on-screen persona, where like in Happy Gilmore and you know the Waterboy Billy Madison, he is kind of like he's lashing out in anger. Like he can't sort of like process his emotions a lot, and he can't really regulate that much. So it pretty much comes out in like these like sort of outbursts. And he has like he's generally playing characters who struggle with social situations. It's like a very sort of interesting portrayal. It definitely makes sense. Like just the more like it makes sense why I loved him so much as a kid. I watched those movies. Like those were my comfort movies as kids. Actually, he's another one on the genre. Tom Cruise Mission Impossible movies, Werner Herzog documentaries, and Adam Sandler movies. I could always put on The Waterboy or The Wedding Singer or Punch Drunk Love or Billy Madison and pretty much be fine. But I wanted to ask you about So you said it, but with the blood flow, and also I think the way I got in contact with you was via your sister, who I think is your manager, I want to say, or helps you
Yeah,
quite a bit.
yeah.
Shout out to your
Big
sister.
sister manager in Renfield.
Yeah.
Katie.
Yeah, big sister manager in Renfield. Yeah. Um,
She's the best. She really is.
yeah, so she, I, reached out to her, and I think she put me in contact with you, and, then you also said your parents had bought you the VHS. So be curious, like, was your experience growing up with autism, like, it seems like you were incredibly supported by your family. Is that your
Yeah.
experience with it?
Oh, and I got one more big one.
Sure.
My grandpa built me a cardboard coffin.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And I was like 8 years old, and I put my Dracula costume on, and I would go in and fold my arms, and,
That's so
so
cool.
yeah, oh, I loved it, I loved it. So wasn't diagnosed until I was 28. So growing up, it was, I was super into Dracula, and they were encouraging of that. But in terms of like anything specific related to autism, they didn't know what I didn't know until I was much older.
Interesting.
And it
So
was honestly,
did they just sort of,
it was
like, if you don't mind me asking, like, did people think, like, you were just, like, weird or, like, different, or, like, were there words they used to, like, describe you? I'm curious, like, and I'm not trying to be insulting at all. I'd hope that
no,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
no, 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 yeah, no, I totally understand, and y- I think probably weird,
yeah,
like maybe some of them who were maybe a little bit more, I don't know how to say it, maybe uh, more aware of the different types of people in the world may have
sure,
suspected maybe, I
yeah.
in the 90s, I don't know on the how many people was aware of autism as they are now.
Seems very few.
It's very few. So, but they may have suspected maybe he has something going on.
Yeah,
And honestly, we were talking earlier about masking. When I got older, I did try to cover up how much I love Dracula, because because when you're a kid, it's a lot easier to be super duper into something crazy.
yeah.
Because it's like, oh, they're a kid,
That's a great point.
and when I was like 13, 14, and a teenager, I remember I was nothing against it if it's your style, but I would wear pretty much only multicolored polo shirts, because I was trying to that was my way of trying to fit in, because I felt like, wow, this is so bland. It doesn't really suggest anything. I should be able to fit in any group. It didn't really work according
Yeah,
to plan, but that was the plan behind it.
yeah,
So it took me time. It took a lot, honestly, a lot of encouragement from my big sister. We figured out I had autism together before I went to a doctor, and then and it took like a lot. And she's actually the one who encouraged me to go on TikTok, and that's
interesting.
where that's the first time I ever opened up about having autism online, and it just the support that I've gotten has been incredible. I remember
Yeah,
even the first video, it was like, people said, I have autism too, or I love Dracula too, or I have autism and I love Dracula, and it just like I felt so accepted, and other people felt accepted too.
yeah,
Like, because I've never seen like my comment. I have the nicest people commenting. Like, everyone is so nice on there,
yeah,
and it's not just it's everybody, and so it was honestly, it was a journey of being young, being super duper into Dracula, then feeling self-conscious about it, and then kind of learning who I was. And as I
yeah,
was learning who I was, embracing it.
yeah. That's fascinating. So 28, wow, that's interesting that it was sort of that late, because I saw something where someone else was talking about you. Um, it was a guy who thought I think he thought that he got you had fired from Taco Bell, I think,
Yeah,
because you were working at
yeah.
Taco Bell, and
Yeah.
he was being very complimentary. He also has I can't remember the fellow's name, but he also has a lot of followers, and he was like, "Go check out Bobby's account." We all just knew him as Bobby. He's great, love him. He's like, and then he told the story about feeling really bad that he might have gotten you fired from Taco Bell. But then I saw you in the comments just like, no, you didn't get me fired. I just quit, or I
No,
can't
he
remember
didn't
what.
get me
Yeah,
fired, but I really, that was like nice of him to, like, I appreciate, like, that he was worried about that, and like all these years later, still thinking about it.
yeah,
Like, that was nice of him.
yeah. Were you doing when you worked at Taco Bell? Did you slip any Dracula stuff in as you were like, I don't know if you took like the orders like in the drive-through, like welcome to Taco Bell.
No, I didn't do
Oh,
that.
yeah. So they missed
No,
opportunity by them because now Dairy
it
Queen's
was
hiring you for it, right? You know?
yeah. Now Derek Queen's hiring me for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They could have had so much promotion.
Right, yeah, I
Yeah.
would be perfect for that.
Yeah.
But no, I was honestly, I was like a lot of, not everyone, of course, but a lot of autistic people are very into, like, following the rules.
Mm.
So, like, that was a rule that, like, I felt uncomfortable doing. Maybe, like, even if it was, like, someone who I thought I recognized their voice too, there's always a chance, like, what if it's not, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. For sure. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, they should have just made a rule that you were allowed to do it. I would have gone to that taco like, they would have
Right?
gotten so like, if I know that there's a Taco Bell around me, like, that had a Dracula guy, like, an autistic guy who loved Dracula on, like, the speaker, why would I go to another fast food place? I'd be like, you know? It's the same, like,
Uh,
you know, to be honest, the thing I love about TikTok, in a way is, like, I kinda curate my feed. I mean, I don't know to the extent other people do this, but, like, I kinda curate my feed and the people I follow, not like there's a lot of autistic people I follow because like that is like, you know, I love Dracula and I love these movies, but I'm not obviously into them as much as you are. Um, but by following your account, I get to sort of sample and I get sort of like a little concentrated version of your own interests. And I think that's one of the reasons, you know, I really quite like sort of TikTok or like the, you know, you could even say YouTube and these short like shorts a little bit, but even YouTube, just like you get sort of like kind of like a little bit of an access to someone like if there are autistic people on there, you get sort of like access to their feed and you get like access to like, you know, I just love hearing you talk about Dracula. It's just fun. And you know, I get to learn something and I get to like see you at these different conventions, just fun to follow along. Um but yeah, it has been, I guess, like, it's been cool to sort of find out the more like, you know, I didn't know about the Dairy Queen thing, but that is sort of like a thing. I wish I wish more companies knew that they could, um, I guess, work with autistic people sort of in a respectful way more, if that makes sense. Like, there's a famous story, you know, I don't want to get really, I always get sad thinking about it, but there's this guy that, you know, who had a an autistic fellow who had like a special interest of trains, like which is very that's one of the more common ones, right? It's like, you know, a lot of autistic people really love trains is like one of the even to the point of it being a stereotype, I think, at this point. Um,
yeah.
but this guy, like, he really loved trains, but he really would like his special interest was more like public transit, and he loved like in New York City, like MTA buses and like MTA trains. Now, what he would do, which is like I can't recommend this, but to anyone out there, but like he would just like he would just be a conductor or like drive a bus or something like that where he would like, you know, he wasn't like hired by the MTA, but he would like if he saw like he would just try and constantly sneak onto trains and just run the normal routes. And like people would start to notice him and he would just run them normally, like he'd just be running these trains normally, just like an employee would or running a bus normally. And there was never an issue, there was never an accident, but like basically the state of New York, I think it was New York and New York City, like kept trying to like they kept arresting him and like putting him in like institutions and like more and more stuff. And it's like, there's got to be a way to like, we have the best of both worlds where it's just like, you know, it's because it's almost, I feel like some autistic people, it's like luck of the draw. Like, you know, I got movies and you got Dracula, just like those are the
Right. Yeah.
things like we didn't choose it, right? Like, I don't even think like, you know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just the things that spoke to us. But this poor fella got public transit or trains and buses, and he can't sort of act on it in the same way that you and I can, which I think is like, there's got to be a way we could set society up differently, you
There's
know, that,
there
yeah,
is like to kind of like see, wow, you have strengths in these areas. Maybe we could get you the training so that, like,
yeah,
there's no mistakes or anything like that. Because
yeah,
obviously with trains is very important. Is very important. But like, imagine if, like he who was already so passionate about it, already loved it, but then got the actual proper training so that he could do it like in the safe everything
yeah,
correctly way. Like, it'd
yeah,
be incredible. And like, it's such a missed opportunity that you just like just toss it aside, like,
yeah. I think that's
and like
probably how
for me,
society
like,
worked. Oh, sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, and I got lucky that I was able to with
Yeah.
Dracula, like because there's there's horror conventions, there's all these horror things I could do, and what's I mean like working at a haunted house, and like the people I know are like who are go to these things and work at haunted houses, they're not everyone's autistic, but you get a group of people who are into self-expression
Yeah.
and are to like looking at things from other angles.
Yeah.
So I feel like I fit right in, but
Yeah.
not everyone has that.
Yeah. Just sad. It's almost like, and I think like,
It is very sad.
I've had, and I don't want to bring this up too much on the show because I've gotten some angry comments, but like, I didn't like the recent movie. I don't even know if I want to say its name, but I didn't like, well, I'll say it. I didn't like the recent movie Weapons. And like, I do not go into my comments. There's been some people, normal, I post pretty positive stuff about how much I love movies, but this movie I thought, but specifically the reason I didn't like it was because I didn't like the way it sort of handled an othered character. Like it had like a witch coming in from sort of outside the community and sort of corrupting children. But I didn't think, like, in contrast to all the stuff we've been talking about with Dracula or Frankenstein or the Invisible Man, they didn't empathize with the monster. And like, to me, maybe just because of my background and friends, family, whatever, I'm more interested. Like, I don't care about the normal people or neurotypical people. Let me spend time with the monster. Like, why is she like that? Like, what's going on with her? Like, those are the reason I love all these old movies. And I was originally going to try and make a point off of that, or like say a state of exception. But like, as I've been trying to explain to people, because like people have been sort of like, I think some people have like really understood why I'm upset with the character in the movie, but some other people don't necessarily understand, like, I think the history behind like how othered people, including neurodivergent and autistic people, have sort of been treated. And one of the phrases I've sort of learned a lot in the research of it is like a state of exception, I think they call it, where like there's like a playbook for like how to sort of, other someone or like make someone feel different than everyone else. And like part of it is like sort of classifying them as different and then sort of changing the laws so that you can treat them as different. Like, that's like what people did in Europe with Jewish people, right? Or like, in these various ways. And it like happens like over and over, like with queer people in Britain in the 40s and 50s. It's like, these people are different, so we can legally treat them a different way. But I'd be curious if it feels like there should be, it's like the opposite of what should happen, talking about like the guy in New York, the institution, or like other autistic people, because like we should treat them differently in a way, but in support. Like it's not, it's like if the guy is like really wanting to do public transit, it's like, or like these trains and buses, it's like we should figure out, there should be a state of exception because he's different, but a supportive one. It's like the only way we treat, a lot of the ways we treat autistic people or, any neurodivergent or other people, it's like there's an exception, but it's like to put them in an institution sometimes, or like that's what it was historically, right? It's like, which is sad. Yeah, I guess.
Sad, yeah.
Yeah. It's but on the opposite
like
side, go ahead, sorry.
Because ultimately it's everybody's loss.
It is. That's a great point.
The autistic person, because there's this opportunity that they could have that would really where their strengths would excel at.
Yeah,
absolutely. They're missing, and they're missing that out, and then the rest of society is missing out on that too.
Yeah,
this amazing person who would have this, who would be wonderful at doing this, but we're not gonna give them a chance.
Yeah,
it's sad.
I think about everyone who comes in contact with your videos. You probably give, you give thousands of people joy every day, or every few days, every time you post a video, right? So it's like, that is a much more optimal situation than, just, I think how society handles a lot of it, which is, I guess, why I'm, probably particularly sensitive to movies that I don't think handle the other well, like the capital O othering of people well, because yeah, I think there's still so many issues with it. I mean, it's like, to your point, it's like, hopefully for the little Dracula out there who's like also maybe shares your special interests, like that they don't have to wait until 28, right, to like sort of like start learning about it more.
Right.
Like I imagine you probably started learning about autism more after you were diagnosed with it? No, like just
Oh,
reading about
definitely,
it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and before it's because I kind of like before I got officially diagnosed by a doctor, I like kind of self-diagnosed before,
Sure. Yeah.
and so, but like still, that was only like about a year before I went in, so it was so yeah, so hopefully like they would learn about it like earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be the ideal. And I think honestly,
Ideal.
yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, because then, like, the earlier it is, like, the more, especially when you're still in school, then you would have access to all to the extra help that would really help you succeed.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a real big issue. I mean, there's a whole long history of it in like Appalachia where I grew up halfway in particular, but like, in my high school, it was really bad that like, you know, basically all the people that were sort of neurodivergent, whether they had like a learning disability or maybe they were autistic in some way or like other ways, they kind of just put them in a room for most of the day. And that's like a common thing of like how they did special education around here is like we had a big room and a little room, like a big room of like, you would have been in the big room, like there'd be a lot of like, but there'd also be people with like someone with like dyslexia in the big room, or like who is like illiterate because of dyslexia, or like someone who, had some other sort of neurodivergence that, there wasn't like, let's make sure, let's try and integrate these people both into the school, which they should have, and also just like make sure that, everyone gets like sort of the care and the education and all the stuff, the specific treatment that they need. Not even treatment even sounds like a bad word, but just like the different set of it's like everybody's different. Like we should
Right,
respectfully,
yeah,
lovingly
yeah,
treat them differently. But yeah, that was like, it was always heartbreaking on some level, even growing up that like, yeah, it's just a lot of the times in Appalachia, it's just like, well, they're just going to be put in a room, it's just like, or
it's
that. So
sad. It's
yeah,
really yeah.
because I mean, yeah, it's even like you could even make an argument selfishly of like for society, it's like, yeah, we're not giving, like the world is richer because you are doing your Dracula stuff, it's like it makes a richer society because you are sort of you have the support and are able to do it, which is, I think the way we should probably treat more other people,
I think so too. I
Yeah.
absolutely think so too.
Yeah.
Because it's like I said, it's like it's their loss and it's our loss.
Yeah. 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 It doesn't make sense either way. It's also expensive too. It's like expensive. It's not happy for anybody, that sort of circumstance of how it's treated quite a bit. But it's crazy how new it all is. I mean, just because like, yeah, I also grew up in the 90s and like, even when you were saying, I still think that's a thing that a lot of people need to learn. Um, when you were talking about sort of like, you're someone who likes to look people in the eyes, but then other people don't. Or, you
Right.
particularly like Dracula, but other people might like trains or movies or these other things.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
but I think the only time I heard autism in the 90s growing up was like when people who were like, you had to be like, it was for like kids who were nonverbal and of some kind, or like, they had like a very specific diagnosis. When I think like, it's honestly crazy just in the last like 10 to 15 years, we know it's like, it's not just like one thing, but it's like this whole spectrum of things, right? Of like, it could encompass a lot of
Exactly.
different,
Yeah. I almost wonder, like a lot of like older stories, like they have characters that seem neurodivergent. I wonder if the writers were tapping into like something like either I experience this or I know someone like this. I don't know what it's called either,
yeah.
but like I know that people are like people exist like this.
Yeah. I mean, I think you might have, I want to say, I can't remember if you had seen my video on the Heiress, the first one I did on the movie, The Heiress with Olivia de Havilland.
Yeah.
Yeah. But when there's a moment in there that like when I first watched it, because it's right at the beginning, when she's buying fish from this guy, and viewers, I would highly recommend, the movie's great. I've done a bunch of videos on it. I think it's the best portrayal of an autistic character I've seen personally in a movie. But like, um, she's, she's buying fish and the guy's like, and she's like, could you take the head off, please? And the guy says, oh, sure. And he goes to chop the head off the fish and she goes like that and kind of like grabs, like she has a little bag that she grabs and just looks away. And it's like she's trying to regulate. Like that's someone who's trying to regulate because she knows that a big chop's coming, and she's almost like
Right.
putting on
Yeah.
like her headphone, like doing
Right. Yeah.
something to regulate. Yeah. So I do wonder about that. Like, did she know someone with autism? Did some people? I think Wilhelmina on the last episode had mentioned something that I mentioned that she has a suspicion because Wilhelmina, I think herself is autistic as well. That Olivia de Havilland might have had some of it in her personal life based on what she knows. But yeah, you do wonder how many of these old people are basing it on people that they knew. Yeah.
Right, yeah, like, there's have you ever did you ever see the, Twilight Zone episode, Time Enough at Last with Burgess Meredith? It's
Oh
where
yeah, with the
he's the one who,
reading.
like where he likes to
Yeah.
read, yeah, and
Yeah.
then he breaks his glass at the end. Um, like that, like, I wonder if, like, his character seems very neurodivergent to me,
That's a great. Yeah.
and, like
That's absolutely. Sorry. Go ahead.
because the way he's reading constantly, it's like a special interest, but it's, like, sort of a stim too because he's, like, reading
Uh-huh.
anything.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. That's a class. That's one of the best Twilight Zone episodes.
And so
I love
I
that.
had a feeling you'd seen it. It's such a good
Yeah.
one too, you know, like
Do you like the Twilight Zone a lot?
oh, I love the Twilight Zone,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that one is
Twilight
one of my favorites. And um, actually, oh my goodness, you're gonna freak out. Okay, I'm gonna freak out. I didn't know this. So that I just looked it up on Wikipedia because I was just about to say one of the other, and I've talked about on my channel. I don't know. Have you seen Hangover Square or The Lodger with Laird Krieger? Um,
No, I haven't.
Bobby, you'll love them. They're like they are. So Laird Krieger, in my opinion, is like I guess he's like I don't know how many Universal horror monsters. He is a Universal horror monster. Like in those, like and I think he's like in The Lodger, he's playing like Jack the Ripper, basically. But he's like this guy who's like, he's like 6'4", 300 pounds. And it's actually, he has a really sad story because he basically died right before Hangover Square came out because he went on this, crash diet. He was like 300 pounds, but he wanted to be a leading man. And they kept putting him in like sort of monster roles. He was also a closeted, gay guy. And so he plays kind of like a gay coded serial killer in The Lodger, who's like kind of like little neurodivergence there. But then in Hangover Square, he plays a guy who is blacking out and killing people because of basically misophonia. Like he hears loud noises and he has like panic attacks and blacks out and he's killing people because of it. So it's like that's just neurodivergence. And the way he portrays
Right.
it, they shoot him just like Frankenstein or Dracula. So I've basically always considered it's like you got like Frankenstein, Dracula, Wolfman, Phantom of the Opera, Invisible Man, Laird Krieger is like is like just like part of the Universal monster canon, I think.
Uh,
Um, and but I pulled up that episode you're talking about on Twilight Zone. That episode was directed by John Brom, who directed both The Lodger and The Hangover Square. So same director as those Laird Krieger movies is Time Enough at Last. So the neurodivergence, that's a theme, I guess, in his movies. That would make total sense.
right, yeah. That would like where he may even if he didn't know what the words were, he knew something about it, you know?
Yeah. And he also did The Undying Monster, which is a pretty good little werewolf movie set in Britain in 1942 movie. It's not as good as The Lodger and Hangover Square, but John Brom, he's a really good director. He did this movie called The Locket that's really good too. And then I think he did a bunch of Twilight Zones, numerous episodes of Twilight Zone, and Alfred Hitchcock Presents.
Movie.
He's like
Oh,
kind
you
of a
want
great
some
unknown.
wild?
Go ahead.
Oh, have you ever seen the show Dark Shadows?
I don't think I have.
It was a vampire soap opera in the late 60s. It was like super popular. And the
That's right.
star, Jonathan Frid, had dyslexia.
No
And
kidding.
it was a live on tape 5-show-a-week soap opera. So it was like a nightmare because he didn't know he had it until he was trying to learn all these scripts.
That must have been hard for him.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that that's a good show, but I haven't seen it. Have you've watched it?
Oh, I love it. And then the rehearsal behind the scenes in the rehearsal hall, they had a big portrait of Bela Lugosi.
That's awesome. Yeah, I need to watch all of John Brom's Twilight Zone stuff. He did Time Enough at Last, Judgment Night, The Four of Us Are Dying. I don't know if I recognize these ones. I think my favorite episodes, there's this one, my very favorite is the one where there's a guy who's sentenced to death for killing a racist guy, and a like black preacher comes into town to like try and sort of get him to like convert to Christianity before he gets executed. And it's like this really like racial politics thing. So it's really good. I can never remember the name of it. Then of course you got To Serve Man, and the one with the gremlin on the wing of the plane. All those are big
Those
Twilight
are
Zone
great.
guy.
I love
So,
the Talking Tina episode too. The Living Doll.
yeah, yeah. The Living Doll. Oh,
My name is Talking Tina, and I'm going to kill you.
yeah, I love that one. The what's the one? There's the one with the New Orleans face mask that's really horrific. Where the mask get like stuck on their face. That one always freaks me out.
And it's like their face.
Yeah, the masks. The Mask is
that's a good one.
shout out to that. That was directed by Ida Lupino, which makes a lot of sense why it's so good. Ida Lupino, famously the first woman to direct a film noir, and one of the only women directors in Hollywood in the late 40s and 50s. She's
That's so
good actress as well. That's yeah, so shout out Twilight Zone. I love the Twilight Zone. I need to start binge watching again. I used to watch it all the time growing up. Just like my dad loved it. It was just one of those things.
It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah. It's I watched Last Action Hero with Arnold Schwarzenegger the other day, and there's a Twilight Zone reference in there where like that's kind of how the villain sort of figures out that he can move between dimensions. I don't know if you've seen that one, but
yeah, I actually have. And I remember they have a Dracula reference in there too.
They do. Yeah, because he says he's like that's one of the first. Speaking of how iconic Dracula is, right? For if you haven't seen the movie, folks, Charles Dance, aka Tywin Lannister from Game of Thrones, is the sort of the main villain, and it's a movie about one of my favorite movies as a kid, where which should have said something about my Neurodivergence, because like it was my dream as a kid, because the kid gets a magic ticket and he's able to go into the movies and basically be Arnold's sidekick in the movie. Like it's a movie within a movie where, you know, the kid gets a magic ticket and he's able to enter into the world of like a fictional Arnold Schwarzenegger movie franchise called Jack Slater, where he's like, you know, it's like a diehard lethal weapon commando predator type thing. And so he goes in. The movie's directed by the guy who did Predator and Die Hard, so he's very good at directing things. So he goes into it, and then he enters into the world of movies, and you know the ticket gets he loses the ticket, and then Charles Dance's character inside the movie figures out that like he can actually enter the real world with it, and the real world's not as good as movie world, where it's much easier to be a villain, and so Charles Dance's plan becomes, you know, he's basically going to go from movie to movie, sort of collecting villains, bringing them out into the real world, and become like this criminal mastermind. And the first villain I think he says is Dracula. I think he says like that's number one I'm going to go to is like, yeah, I'm gonna go pick up Dracula I'm gonna go pick up Bela Lugosi, which would have been cool if they put that in there. I think that'd
be incredible.
That would have been a lot of fun. Yeah, I think because they make a reference to the Seventh Seal. I think is Ian McKellen plays like the in the movie. He plays the guy, the death from the Seventh Seal. But it would have been fun to see someone playing maybe Bela Lugosi, bring him into the real world.
Right. And I remember when I saw Last Action Hero, I actually thought like, man, I wish I could do that, but with Bela Lugosi instead.
Yeah, it's the ultimate fantasy.
The horror world.
Yeah. Yeah. You could have just hung out with Bela Lugosi. Yeah, that would have been. Yeah, that would have been a lot of fun. Yeah, I love that movie so much.
And Bela Lugosi, when he was doing well, he was a ball to hang out with too, because he loved the good life. So he would always buy like the best Hungarian imported wines, the best cigars. And when he would go to the Hungarian restaurants, he would tip the band so much that when he was in New York, some of the band members moved to California just to be by him. And he would tip them so much that they would play whatever he wanted. So if he was in a happy mood, they would play happy music for him. If he was in a sad mood, they would play sad music for him, whatever he wanted.
No, that's cool. I love Hungarian food. I would say the few times I've had it has been really good. Like the goulash, I think, is the big one. My mom used to make that.
Yeah, Hungarian goulash. I love Hungarian goulash.
Yeah. Have you been able to go to Hungary or Transylvania?
I have not. I really, really want to. It's definitely on my bucket list.
Yeah.
But I really, really want to. You know what I noticed? In the Spanish, because in the book, Dracula serves Renfield, or Jonathan Harker in the book, chicken paprika. And I noticed in the Spanish Dracula, he's eating chicken, but in the English one, you never see what the food is.
Hmm.
But I know that they had trouble with that set with the fire, and they had to wait for hours for it to die down in order to
Mm.
like to resume filming. So I wonder if like something went wrong with like the chicken.
Yeah, I don't know. I would not be surprised. Yeah, mine was
Right?
one of my
Like,
grandma's dishes. My grandma grew up in Switzerland, and she she was there. My grandparents were very old. Like I think she was born in like 1917, so they probably saw. She was 14, I guess, when this movie came out, which is crazy to think about. But
right, yeah.
they yeah, that was just like one of her dishes that she made that now my mom makes is paprika chicken, which is like you know,
Oh, that's so
yeah,
cool. It's so great.
yeah, really, really love it. Now I'm getting hungry for some Hungarian food. I would love some goulash. That sounds great. Yeah.
Doesn't sound delicious.
Yeah. You know, actually shout out a friend of the show, Katie Asaurus, who's a TikTok influencer, and she does like autism and ADHD content. You know, tons of followers. She has a new book coming out called The ADHD Field Guide for Adults, which will be out. I don't know if by the time this gets released, but at some point soon. But she's doing a like a 6-week cruise, I think, because she's also a TTRPG influencer, like a tabletop RPG. And I think they're doing a what is it? TTRPG cruise. Danube of the Damned. Okay. Well, there's a website out, so I'm hoping. So Danube of the Damned is a 7-night luxury river cruise through Eastern Europe, ending with 2 exclusive nights inside Bran Castle, the inspiration behind the legend of Count Dracula. This once-in-a-lifetime experience blends Dungeons and Dragons and Vampire the Masquerade into a gothic fantasy journey that ends where the myth becomes a treasured memory. And so it's a 7-day aboard a luxury river cruise filled with immersive RPG sessions, gothic dinners, and vampire movie nights, and a 2-day hotel stay and land in Transylvania, featuring your final adventure and masquerade gala inside the legendary Bran Castle. So spots will be limited, but I think I can. I'll send you. I don't know if you've ever been on a cruise or if you're interested in cruising, but I'll make sure an email
No,
or
I
message
have
it
to
to you.
necessarily.
I haven't either.
I was actually thinking, like, does she have like a large crate that I could sneak into?
Yeah, we'll have to get you. Maybe I'm sure like maybe you could contact a company potentially, like in the same way that like Dairy Queen or something. Like you'd be a great
Oh,
asset to this.
oh,
Yeah,
thank you. With Dairy Queen, I just happened to meet like the manager of the Dairy Queen. But yeah, I mean, you never, because I'm kind of learning like the worst people could say is no.
yeah. Honestly, yeah, that's absolutely. So it says included professionally run RPG sessions aboard a luxury river ship, a 5-hour finale game inside Dracula's castle. So I guess you get to play which would be cool. Like I've never really done a lot of
Oh
TTRPG.
man,
A masquerade gala,
that's
uh,
incredible.
gothic inspired dinners featuring immersive themes like the Crimson Reserve, Lupine Shadows, and the Sanguine Court. Vampire movie
Oh my
nights under the
god.
stars, celebrating timeless horror and cinematic chills. Yeah, you got to get on this somehow, Bobby.
Oh my god, it sounds amazing. This sounds
Yeah.
amazing.
Curated excursions, a chef's table dining with dark thematic touch. Our bespoke swag bag, a curated collection of one-of-a-kind items crafted to commemorate an adventure like no other. And etch your name into legend as one of the first to roll dice and weave tales within Dracula's castle itself. Yeah,
It sounds amazing.
it does sound. It sounds very cool.
And that's honestly like, because I really want to go to Transylvania and Brian Castle, and something like that's what I want, where it's like, because I mean, because like it is a little dangerous, like to go like to a country where you don't speak the language, you
Yeah,
don't know anyone. So like that, like in like a structure like that, that would be perfect because you could explore all of it, but you're not going to get lost either, you know?
yeah. I'll see. Yeah, I'll talk
Oh, this
to
would be perfect.
it July 20 to 28th, 2026. So I'll have I'll send this to you and then I'll talk to Kate
You-
about it. She's great because I think she's one of the people who's going to be running the sessions. So I think she's like obviously, I mean, she would be perfect because like that's her thing is autism, ADHD, and tabletop RPGs. So in terms of like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure it's gonna be a whole blast. Yeah, a
Oh, that
masquerade
sounds
gala
amazing.
inside the
She,
castle sounds really fun.
So
Yeah.
the way Bela Lugosi was really fond of American slang. So and he really liked the expression "the big cheese." She's the big cheese when it comes to this thing.
Yeah, she's the big tease. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
One time he was at a movie theater and it was a group of teenage fans of his that he became friends with, and they were seeing the black cat, and he said, "You see that, boys? That's when I was the big cheese."
I love that. That's so cool. He's yeah, he's great. I really need to
And
see him in more
one of
stuff.
them,
Go ahead, sorry.
oh, he's amazing. And when one of the kids, he was going to a Halloween party, and Bela lent him his Dracula costume.
That's so cool. That's
Yeah,
really
yeah, and the
cool.
kid won first prize. Yeah, yeah.
How could you not?
Like Bela, he was like super. Yeah, right. Yeah, like Bela was always like super cool with a kid and stuff like that.
That's really cool. Yeah, he's I think so. I was looking at his let's see if I can look on a letterbox here. I've seen him in Dracula and The Wolfman, and I think just Island of Lost Souls, I want to say maybe. Um which Island of Lost Souls with Charles Lawton, where he plays like kind of
Oh,
he's like the sayer of the law. I don't know if you've seen that one, but it's
Theory of the Law. Yeah.
yeah, it's a good one. I need to see.
Oh, he's so good. Have you ever seen?
Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, have you ever seen Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein?
No, I bought that for my dad for Christmas last year, but I haven't watched it. Maybe I need to sit down and watch it with him.
Oh, you would like it. It has Bela Lugosi as Dracula, Lon Chaney Jr. is back as the Wolfman,
Okay,
and Glenn Strange, who had played the monster in the past two movies, and Vincent Price has a cameo as the Invisible Man.
that's really cool. Okay, I love that. Yeah, I'll have to watch that. I'd like to watch that, and I think I have. I want to say of the movie. I think I have a bunch of movies. I have um Black Friday, and I have The Invisible Ray, which I haven't seen. Um, and I think I have The Body Snatcher as well. I thought I watched The Body Snatcher. Maybe I just have it, but I don't know if I.
I know I have some movies like that too.
Yeah, yeah. I can't remember with it. Yeah,
Got it, but you never, especially if it comes like in a box set or something. Like, and you've seen you see some of them, but not all of them.
he's also. I didn't realize this, but he's in White Zombie, which I've been wanting to watch because I think that's one of the first zombie movies. I think.
Yeah, and it's the first zombie movie. Not only does he star in it, he's not credited, but he also helped write and direct it too.
No kidding. That's really cool. Did he
Yeah,
write and
yeah.
direct a lot of stuff?
It's not really. Like, so he directed plays when he got in the Hungarian theater community, and like it's possible that he like influenced some of the movies he was working on, but like he's not really like known for that,
Yeah.
for writing and directing. So he really had a hand in that film, and the producers, the Hasbro brothers, if you watch any of their other movies, none of them have the visual style of White Zombie. So you can kind of like make the fair assumption that like that a lot of that is Bela Lugosi.
That's so cool. I had no idea. That makes a lot of sense. So I guess now while we're talking about him, so like if you had to give sort of the overview of Lugosi, it seems like, and correct me on any of this, it seems like so we talked about him coming from, he was an actor in Hungary. He left, he came to America, he started doing the stage show, learned English, and then he acted in movies. And then he was like one of the bigger stars, I guess, of the 30s. And then he started working, I guess more, they would call them like B pictures, probably in the 40s and on. Like they're like, I guess slightly lesser known, or was he still just like a huge star through the 40s as well?
It was, he was always super popular because I mean he created Dracula, so he
Yeah.
was always his in terms of like the audience knowing who he was always a superstar. But like his career did like hit some like hard bumps. So this is kind of what happened with him. So after Bela's enormous success as Dracula, Universal offered him Frankenstein. Now he really wanted to play Dr. Frankenstein, but Universal insisted he play the monster. It was going to be a 3-hour makeup. There was no dialogue, and I've read the original script. In the original script, the monster really doesn't have that sympathetic element to its character.
Mhm.
And then so Bela turned it down, and then Boris Karloff played the monster, and he became a bigger star. And to give you an idea, when Boris Karloff died, he had $20 million. Bela had 1,800.
Mm.
So it was in it. So and he also, Bela was like he was very bad at managing his money. And what had kind of created this perfect storm, because he would buy like big houses with swimming pools, and he would have servants and have the best wine. But then his wife Lillian, because he was typecast immediately, and his wife Lillian was always trying to tell him, take the more artistic roles, show what a great actor you are. Whereas Bela would just take whatever paid more.
Mm.
And yeah, and and she called them step down roles when it was like a role that was like that paid, but it wasn't that great of a quality, and it kind of lowered his reputation. And Lillian even told him, "You are a legend because of Dracula, and you're
Yeah.
throwing it away by taking these step down roles."
Yeah. Yeah.
So he really just and it's like he had a tough spot in the late 30s, because there was this England banned horror movies in 1936. So there was this like 2-year gap where Hollywood stopped making them. And that was like, and that was a scary period for us, like, because he had a son on the way and everything. And then it kind of came back when he did Son of Frankenstein and he did The Wolf Man. But then in the 40s, it got really hard. It was there where he had to rely mostly on stage work. So he did the play Dracula a lot, and then he was doing Arsenic and Old Lace a lot too. Yeah. So like as he got like, as he was getting like older, and like, and the typecasting got worse, and also as that classic Gothic style started to become more seen as old fashioned, then like it became like harder and harder for him to find work. But for the audience, he was always like for the audience, he was always Bela.
Yeah, I'm always excited to see him in anything. I can,
Yeah.
Some
And he
people are
was,
so
by the way,
charismatic.
he was supposedly. Right. Are you familiar with Arsenic and Old Lace?
Oh yeah, yeah.
On Broadway, Boris Karloff played Jonathan Brewster, and the big running joke is that people say to him, "You look like Boris Karloff," and then he gets real mad, And then when they offered the part to Bela, for the tour of Arsenic and Old Lace, they offered it to Bela Lugosi, and he was a little iffy about taking on a Boris Karloff role. So he said, "I'll do it on one condition. You change the line to, you look like Bela Lugosi." So when he did it, the line was, "You look like Bela Lugosi."
That's so funny. That's really cool. I love that. Yeah, in the movie they had Raymond Massey play him, and they just dressed him up to look like Boris Karloff. So it wasn't quite as funny. It was still a very funny joke, but yeah, really cool. So and then he, it looks like he started. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Oh no, you go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, so he starred in a bunch of, like, he did like Career Rise, and he's always a big star. Then he starred, and then I don't think I've seen many Ed Wood movies, but then he, like, that was sort of like known in the tail end of his career. He was starring like Ed Wood stuff, like Glenn or Glenda and Bride of the Monster.
Yeah. So as it became harder and harder to find work, he met Ed Wood, and this is sort of funny. So the first movie that Ed Wood ever offered him, before they eventually became friends, but the first time Ed ever offered him anything was as soon as he met him, he offered him a part in Glenn or Glenda, and it was Bela Lugosi. So he didn't even know what part he was going to play yet. He just like, "Hey, I met Bela Lugosi running the movie," and at that time in 1952, making a movie about being transgender or cross-dressing, that was very daring.
Yeah.
So Ed, he first offered Bela $500, but Lillian said he'll do it for 1,000. And then and that's how he got it. And then he did Bride of the Monster. And then I actually, just 1 second, I'll show you.
Sure.
I know it's a podcast, but for those who could see, I had with Ed Wood, I had the short story published, Mr. and Mrs. Ghoul, in this book.
Oh yeah.
And in it, and it's all a tribute to Ed Wood's movies. And let me get the page for you. Here we go. Hey, see, this is my. Can you see it?
Yeah, that's so cool.
This is my
Mr.
story.
and Mrs. Ghoul.
And better, it includes a picture of me as Bela Lugosi and my sister as Vampira.
That's very cool. That's so cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love that. That's really cool.
Thank you. in his last movie, Plan 9 from Outer Space, he actually died before production. And Ed Wood had filmed some footage of him and he inserted it in the movie and got his chiropractor to put on a Dracula costume and be like Bela Lugosi's double.
Very cool. That's so cool.
Yeah. And then and as we talked about earlier, Bela Lugosi died on August 16th, 1956. And his fourth wife, Lillian, and their son, who was 18 years old at the time, decided that he should be buried in full Dracula costume.
That's so cool.
And then it is really, really cool. And then the driver of the hearse taking Bela's body to Holy Cross Cemetery said that this weird force came over the steering wheel where he couldn't turn left and instead had to keep going straight down Hollywood Boulevard. And he didn't regain control of the car until after they had passed Bela Lugosi's favorite cigar store. As if Bela had willed himself to go down Hollywood Boulevard one last time.
That's so cool.
And I've talked to the biographer. Bob Kramer, and he interviewed the people who owned the funeral home, and they were never able to find out what was wrong with the car.
Well, he's, clearly, yeah. That makes me kind of nervous though that he was buried in this Dracula stuff. I'd be nervous that, going to that funeral, he might just, I guess, maybe he'll just make more movies, but I guess if he fell into that graveyard.
Well, that's what some of them said. It was very normal to see him in a coffin wearing a Dracula costume. It wasn't like it was a very like normal sight to see.
Yeah, totally. And then I saw when I was just quickly looking up, I saw that his son, Bela Lugosi Jr., sued Universal Pictures for using Bela Lugosi's personality rights without the heir's permission on toys, posters, model kits, and the like. And it's like a landmark case or something. Like I think I don't know if you know much about this or yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, so, Bela Lugosi Jr. when he was going to he's a very successful lawyer, and when he was going to law school, someone had given him the Aurora Dracula model kit, and he was like, "Well, we didn't, get anything from this."
Yeah.
So he so at first he sued, and then he actually won the case, but then Universal appealed and then went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said no, that actors' likeness rights does not get passed down to the new generation. So then Bela Jr. and a bunch of other like sons and daughters of celebrities went to the California legislature and got the law changed, where now an actor's likeness rights does get passed down.
That's good.
So it was a huge landmark case, and then he also handled a case for the Three Stooges. Larry Fine's grandchildren and Curly Joe, like the last group of them. Curly Joe, his wife, were suing the children of Mo Howard for not paying them enough for like likeness rights.
That makes sense. That's those were like some of the things.
And if you look at the court document, it's so funny. It will say like Three Stooges lawyer Bela Lugosi.
That's so cool. Yeah, that's the one sort of tenuous connection to Hollywood I have is my I don't know what he was. I guess he was my grandpa's uncle. So my great grand second cousin uncle something. I don't know what I never understood how to do those family relations thing, but he was a composer and like I think he directed one movie or something maybe called Woman Haters. He directed a Three Stooges short. This guy, I can't remember his name.
That's the first one.
Yeah, I think it was Woman Haters. What was
the
it?
first one in Columbia? Yeah.
Yeah, he's. I think it was their first like non. It was like a musical. It was like the only one that was a musical potentially. I think as well. Archie Gottler. Yeah, is my. Yeah. He's my grandpa's uncle.
So
I think.
Cool.
Yeah. I wish I
so groovy.
I wish I had connections to it because but I don't think anyone it's if I was born, he died in 1959, so that's unfortunately I don't think I have it. I can't use that as an in to Hollywood in any way. It'd be fun, but yeah, he did that, and he also did some. He did a couple of like a bunch of songs in World War One that were like patriotic songs. Interesting career. I think his son might have worked in
That's
Hollywood
so
too.
groovy.
Yeah, Archie Gottler.
So groovy.
Yeah, I need to watch it. I watched that a while ago, but I haven't seen it in a while. Okay, so cool. So he did that. So Bela Lugosi, he had 5 wives, right?
Yeah, he did have 5. You want me to give
Yeah.
you the rundown?
Yeah, let's hear the rundown of his.
So,
Yeah.
all right, I'll give you the rundown of Bela Lugosi's 5 wives. All right, so the first one was her name was Alona,
Uh-huh.
and she was married to him when they had to flee Hungary. So they fled to Vienna, and then she went back. Then she went back with their parents, and that's how that marriage ended. Then his second wife was like this flapper who was also named Alona when he came to America. And that he was, the thing with Bela is, he was a very nice man, but he was born in 1882 Hungary, so he had some very old-fashioned views of marriage.
Sure.
And then his third wife was Beatrice Weeks, and that marriage lasted a whopping 3 days. And, and what happened with that is they had a very wild honeymoon, right? And the next morning, he asked her to make him fresh squeezed orange juice, and she said no. The next morning, they had another wild party the night before. He asked her to make her fresh squeezed orange juice. She said no. The next day, he asked her to make her fresh squeezed orange juice, and she said no. One of his friends came over. He ranted and raved about how terrible it was for 3 hours. Then he told Beatrice, "I demand you leave my house." And then she reminded him that it was her house and he had to leave. So that was the end of Beatrice No Orange Juice Weeks. And then
Oh.
his fourth one.
That's old fashioned. Yeah, that's a crazy reason. Guy liked his orange juice, I guess.
Well, he loved orange juice.
Yeah.
He really did. Even when he was in Hungary, remember I said he had trouble managing his money? When he lived in Hungary, oranges were super expensive. There was something you would only buy on Christmas or a birthday or some type of special occasion. And he would buy 12 oranges a day to make fresh squeezed orange juice. And he was a struggling actor. He didn't he couldn't afford that. That was his rent money. He was blowing on orange juice.
Oh, wow.
And then his fourth wife, Lillian, who was this amazing woman. She was about 30 years younger than him, and her parents were very involved in the Hungarian community, and they thought that Bela had money because he just did the movie Dracula, and they were kind of pushing for a relationship until they found out that Bela didn't have money like that. But by then it was too late. And because Lillian was Hungarian too, she was able to kind of go with it, and she was the greatest partner you could ever ask for. When he was on stage, she would puff his cigar for him to keep it lit for him. She would, she made fresh squeezed orange juice. He had a postage stamp collection of 150,000 postage stamps.
Oh, wow.
She put them in the books for him. She made sure he didn't eat foods that upset his ulcers. Before, he didn't drive. She did all the driving. She really took care of him. When they were doing theater productions of Dracula, she would tell all the kids about his entire career in Hungary and what a great actor he was. And she would tell people that he was like the Laurence Olivier of the Hungarian stage. And then Bela would say, "No, I was the Clark Gable." and what happened though is in the 50s, when it became really, and as he was drinking more, but also as he was having a harder time finding work, she had to get a job working for the actor Brian Dunleavy. And he was just insanely jealous. Jealous that he was a man, jealous that she was working in him, and jealous that Brian Dunleavy at the time was more successful. And between the jealousy, the drinking, that was enough.
Yeah.
And Lillian left him, but before she left, she made sure she got him off from morphine. He went back to it after the divorce, but she got him off of it. She left him in good shape. And then his fifth wife was named Hope, and she started sending him letters when he was in drug rehab. But she had been following him around the country in different play productions of Dracula, and she moved to California just to be by him. And so she was like this obsessed Dracula fan. And after knowing her for about 15 minutes, he proposed. But the morning of their wedding, he called Lillian begging her to take him back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then he also dated the silent film star Clara Bow. He dated her for a while.
That's very cool.
And it was funny is when he was doing the play, they met when he was doing the play Dracula in California, and she was throwing a pool party, and she threw her fur coat on over her bathing suit and said, "Come on, everybody, we're gonna go see Dracula."
That's awesome. Yeah, she was like one of the biggest stars of the 20s, I believe, right? Claire Bow?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the It Girl.
Yeah, the It Girl.
That was her name, the It Girl. Yeah, and Bela and her dated, and see some other great stories about him. I'm wearing the ring I have on. This is a replica of the ring that Bela Lugosi wore in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
Oh, cool.
And so in the original movie, he wore like a black onyx ring. And then for Son of Dracula, they made Lon Chaney Jr. a ring that had the Dracula family crest, right? And he wore that. And then for House of Dracula and the House of Frankenstein, they hired John Carradine to play Dracula. So they resized it, but he wore like the same ring. And Bela finally wore it in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. But because he knew he was the definitive Dracula, he took it home with him after production. And he told everybody that it was an exact replica of the ring worn by Vlad the Impaler.
That's really cool. I love that.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah, that's awesome. So you got the cape. I noticed you got so your outfit here. You got the cape, you got the tie, you got the ring, you got the fangs. Is this like your typical? Is this like the?
I even have.
Go ahead.
I even have. It's hard to see, but I even have the gold pocket watch chain on the bottom of my vest.
That's cool as hell. I love that. So is this the getup? So is this like the outfit you wear, like if you're gonna do like an appearance or like a Dairy Queen or something? This is like your coat looks really nice. I just got this from Spirit Halloween, but yours looks like really, really nice.
Oh, it looks nice. It looks really nice. Yeah, so this is like my standard one. I have now depending on how hot, I have a black jacket that I got at Goodwill for $5. And but it's a little hot in the house, so I didn't wear it. But I also have I have a distressed Dracula costume that my sister made for me, and I wear that at the haunted house. And I also have I have the officially licensed Bela Lugosi Dracula cape. Now it's really heavy, so I don't wear it that often. But as I said, I live in Chicago, and a couple of Halloweens ago, it snowed. So I wore the official Bela Lugosi cape, and I was snug as a bug in a rug.
That's cool.
It's heavy, but it's sometimes Chicago weather could be a Lulu.
Yeah.
So like when it's cold out, like that cape is perfect. So those are like my three main looks, and then sometimes like in the summer, I call it low-key Dracula, and I'll just put on like a regular cape with a Dracula t-shirt too, but still representing, you know?
Very nice. I love that. That's cool. Yeah.
And now Bela Lugosi, he had several capes too, because he would do, he had the one in Dracula. He would do the play all the time. Some were heavier, some were lighter, and he was buried in just one of his capes. And the cape that he wore in the original movie is still survives, and Bela Lugosi Jr. has lent it to a museum in Hollywood.
That's really cool. And he's still alive, Bela Lugosi Jr., right?
It's incredibly. Yeah, Bela Lugosi Jr. is still alive. He's getting a little bit older, so right now it's his daughter Lynn Lugosi Sparks, and she's kind of the one who's like the acting head of the family now.
Very cool.
I really want to reach out to her and tell her about me, and I'm going through. I'm just a little nervous, you know.
Yeah,
it's a big deal to reach out to the family, you know.
Yeah, I'm sure they're gonna love you.
But I do actually. Oh, thank you. I know. One of my followers actually met her, and she showed her a couple of my videos, and I guess she really liked them. And I never met her, but I have a picture of her holding my business card.
That's so cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, that'll
so
be.
I never met her, but I like kind of met her.
Yeah, she met you in a way, and yeah. I hope you get to meet her. That'll be great. I'm sure she's gonna love meeting you.
I would love that.
Yeah. Well, cool.
Thank
Well,
you so much.
Bobby, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for giving me a reason to watch Spanish Dracula too. I had seen. Oh, I forgot to ask actually one thing before we go. I did want to ask, have you seen the Philip Glass scored Dracula? That was one thing I had to shout that out on my on this collection here. There's a version of Dracula of the 1931 that was scored by the composer Philip Glass. I don't know if you've seen that version.
Oh, definitely I have.
Yeah, I figured. How does that? That was so. That one was interesting to me because it was. I've seen the movie 2 or 3 times, and then I watched that version. Since you're so familiar with it, like, how do you like? Is that like one you like? Do you not like? Like, how do you sort of is that one you regularly go to as well with the Philip Glass score?
Honestly, so I want to preface this by saying Philip Glass did an amazing job, and it's a great version of it. But I prefer the original. I
Oh,
honestly
same.
I
Yeah,
think
I totally agree with
it's
you.
scarier.
Oh yeah,
It's and because the original. There's all these moments that are quiet, and you got to think like quiet like a tomb,
yeah.
quiet like a cemetery. And I think that quietness it makes it eerier, and it makes it more haunting.
Yeah, Honda definitely. Yeah, I totally like the original version. I think is way better. I don't. It's interesting. I just hadn't seen like another movie be treated like that a
It's
lot.
great to have that.
Yeah, where they get like a different. This is a unique movie in many ways because like you don't normally see a movie that also has a complete. Like normally they would just dub it into Spanish, but they made a whole separate movie using the same outfits and casts and storyline and construction. And then there's also now this modern version where it's a Philip Glass score, which is like you don't really see movies that have either of those. It's kind of fascinating from a movie
Right,
history
yeah, and then
standpoint.
there's another I wish I knew the name of the composer, but there's another version of the Bela Lugosi Dracula that has another composer's background music, and they play it on Spenguli sometimes. And
Mm,
that's another so, like, yeah, it's really, like, so, like, there's kind of, like, 4 versions, like, of the same movie.
interesting. I did not know that. Yeah, it looks like there's a 1998 score, and then I don't know. I'll have to check that out because yeah, on the Wikipedia it just says it's the
I
Philip Glass version.
I I I I I just I wish I knew what it was actually called, but I always call it the Spenguli edition.
This Van Gogh
Because
edition,
that's where I heard it. It's fun.
yeah, yeah,
And he plays it. He doesn't always play it, but sometimes he will. You know.
yeah,
And it has some creepy background music too.
yeah. That's I'll have to see if
And before
go ahead.
before we go though, I would like to make a final speech.
Yes, please.
Now this was at the end. This was at the end of the Broadway play. Now, on Broadway, Edward Van Sloan, who played Professor Van Helsing, would do this. But in all the later productions, Bela Lugosi would do it. And I'll do it like him. Just a moment. Just one word before you go. We hope that the memories of Dracula and Renfield do not give you bad dreams. But when you go home tonight and are afraid to look behind the curtain, and you dread to see a face at the window, well, just pull yourself together and remember there are such things.
Bobby, thank you so much for Bobby.
I was thinking to break character first.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I figured. I was getting a little terrified. I was getting a little haunted and getting a little heebie-jeebies. Well, yeah, Bobby, thank you so much for coming on here. Please, I hope to have you back on again another time, anytime you want. This has been so much fun, and I travel to
Thank you so much. I have loved this.
Chicago. Yeah, I travel to Chicago for a regular. So when I'm up there, I might, I'll reach out to you. Maybe we could, see if you have anything going on, and that'd be a lot of fun. So, thank you so much for coming on the show.
I would love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would
Thank
too.
you so much for having me. I have loved this experience, and I love your podcast, your show. You do incredible work to bringing new attention to these wonderful movies, and so I am honored to be on it.
Thank you so much. I think probably it'll work out so that this will come out around Halloween potentially. Because I normally have
perfect.
Well, cool. Well, Bobby
that sounds perfect to me. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, Lugosi Theater on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. And Bobby, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was so fun.
I am honored to. I had so much fun. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right, bye everyone.